Chapter 5142. Luo Xingtian waved his hand and said with a smile, "You're talking nonsense. Since it's a hill, how could it be taken away so easily? It's not like it's some secret technique. How is it not possible?" Li Feng gritted his teeth and said as if he was cutting off all means of retreat. "Those hills were originally favored by this little one, and I spent more than 10 years on them. However, the Imperial Thunder Sect felt that the hills were a threat to them, and insisted that the hills belonged to them. They forcibly expanded their formation to protect the hills." Hearing Li Feng's sad story, Luo Xingtian frowned and looked at Fairy Xianhua with displeasure. "If that's the case, then it's your Imperial Thunder Sect's fault. Isn't it just a few hills? How could it affect the sect protecting formation? It doesn't matter if it's occupied by small sections. Even the secular people know to give way to neighbors. Imperial Thunder Sect is such a big cultivation sect. How could they be so stingy?" Hearing Li Feng distorting the truth, Fairy Xianhua was already furious. When Luo Xingtian finished speaking, she hurriedly argued, "Lord Alliance Master, it's absolutely not like what Li Feng said. The hills he mentioned are the peaks of my Imperial Thunder Sect's sect protecting Grand Array. My Imperial Thunder Sect's array has long been set up on them. How could they be the hills he mentioned? Alliance Master, please judge clearly." "So it's like this." Luo Xingtian muttered and raised his hand. "Show Buddha the arbitration order of the Judgment Hall." This. Daoist Swift Wind was dumbfounded. His face flushed red and he hurriedly flew over from afar and said respectfully, "It's all this junior's fault." "Oh, who are you? What did you do wrong?" Luo Xingtian was confused and asked curiously. Daoist Swift Wind hurriedly replied, Junior was really angry just now. I destroyed the arbitration order." Luo Xingtian snorted. Although there was no special expression on his face, anyone could see the displeasure in his eyes. Luo Xingtian calmly said, "Destroying the arbitration order is not a big crime. It just represents the Imperial Thunder Sect's contempt for the Immortal Alliance's ruling, and does not intend to accept the Immortal Alliance's ruling. The Imperial Thunder Sect will bear all the consequences. The Immortal Alliance will support the Barbarian Sect's request." Daoist Swift Wind was helpless and apologized to Fairy Xianhua. "Sect Master, this is my fault. There's no need." Fairy Xianhua sneered and waved her hand. "What crime have you committed? My Imperial Thunder Sect has no intention of accepting the arbitration order. It makes no difference whether it's destroyed or not. Since the head of the Imperial Thunder Sect has said so, this old man will not explore this so-called hill." Luo Xingtian nodded. "The specific matters will naturally be handled by the Immortal Alliance's Hall of Judgment. This old man will only ask about the 2 special envoys whose fate is unknown." Daoist Jiefeng hurriedly replied. "As you know, Alliance Master, the 2 special envoys have left the Imperial Thunder Sect long ago. If they haven't returned, you might as well ask the disciples of the 4 sects who have besieged my Imperial Thunder Sect." At this point, everyone knew that the ones besieging the Imperial Thunder Sect were definitely not the 4 sects' disciples that the Heavenly Demon Sect had pretended to be. "That's true." Luo Xingtian nodded. "The 4 great sects of the country of Shi made such a big commotion. This old man is also puzzled. Why would they suddenly attack the Imperial Thunder Sect?" Luo Xingtian then said to Sun Yunzi, "Go and call the leaders of the 4 sects over. This old man will ask them what's going on." "Yes, this junior obeys." Sun Yunzi replied and disappeared in a flash. It was just a matter of a meal. 4 nascent soul cultivators flew over with Sun Yunzi. When Fairy Xianhua and the others saw the appearance of these people, their noses became crooked from anger. Wasn't that withered old man Qi Jianghai of the Magnificent Flower Sect? Wasn't that old man Daoist Master Withered Leaf of the 7 Skills Sect? As for the other 2 beautiful and charming women, weren't they Fairy Poyu of the Xuanyan School and Fairy Bihua of the Washing Flower Sect? The 4 of them were all nascent soul cultivators who were familiar with the Imperial Thunder Sect. Who would have thought that they would suddenly reveal a vicious expression and want to carve up the Imperial Thunder Sect's property? "Fellow Taoists," Fairy Xianhua said sarcastically, "I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect that you would all come here today knowing that I miss you. Umph. Magnificent flower sex, Qi Jianghai snorted. Fairy Xianhua, don't try to curry favor with me. This old man was really blind before. I didn't think that your Imperial Thunder sect would be so despicable that you would even bully a small sect like the Barking sect. Today, for the justice of the heavenly Tao, for the justice of our country of Xi's cultivation sects, this old man has brought his disciples here. If we can't uphold justice, we'd rather fight. Good heavens! Thunder Meng Daoist sneered. You speak in such a dignified manner. You're just coveting my Mount Lama. What nonsense is this about justice? Seven Skills Sect's Taoist master Withered Leaf laughed. He pointed at Thunder Meng Daoist and said, Lei Meng, I've always respected you, but I didn't expect that you would also bully the weak. Before Li Feng brought this matter to the Immortal Alliance's Hall of Judgment, we already knew about it. However, we're only cultivators from the country of Xi. We don't have the authority to govern the Imperial Thunder sect, so we paid close attention to this matter. When we heard that the Immortal Alliance's Hall of Judgment had decided to arbitrate, we all clapped our hands in satisfaction. However, the Barking sect is weak and the Immortal Alliance's Lord Alliance is kind and benevolent. We were afraid that the Imperial Thunder sect would be thick-skinned and refuse to accept the arbiter, so your sect master let you lead the Seven Skills sect's disciples here? Taoist Master Swiftwind asked with a cold smile. Seven Skills sect's Taoist Master Withered Leaf smiled and replied, You're wrong. These Seven Skills sect's disciples came of their own accord. They didn't come out of the sect master's will. Everything that happened here has nothing to do with my Seven Skills sect. We came for the sake of justice. Fairy Xianhua's face turned ashen. She glanced at the Xuanyan School's Fairy Poyu and the Huanhua sect's Fairy Baihua and asked, You naturally came for the sake of justice. You didn't come under the orders of your sect master? That's right. The two female cultivators nodded. Your Imperial Thunder sect's current actions have already provoked public anger. If you don't restrain yourselves, I'm afraid there really will be a war. Fairy Xianhua wanted to argue, but when she saw the four nascent soul cultivators and Sun Yunzi's cold expression, she sighed. How could she not know that this matter had already been discussed by the four sects? They had only used Li Feng's Barking sect as a bait, and then waited for them to do the evil deed of destroying the Imperial Thunder sect? When she thought of this, Fairy Xianhua hastily looked at Luo Xingtian, pondering how to convince the Immortal Alliance's Vice-Alliance Master of the Imperial Thunder sect's innocence. Unfortunately, Luo Xingtian didn't listen to the four nascent soul cultivators. When Fairy Xianhua finished speaking, he immediately asked, This old man wants to ask you, did you see the two special envoys of my Immortal Alliance's Judgment Hall? The four looked at each other and shook their heads. Reporting to Lord Alliance Master, when Senior Sun Yunzi came to inquire, he already mentioned this matter. We also asked the disciples before we left. They only saw the two special envoys fly into the Imperial Thunder sect, and didn't see them fly out. Inverting black and white. Fairy Xianhua gnashed her teeth and spat out these words. She didn't argue anymore. Fairy Xianhua. Luo Xingtian said sternly. Did you hear that? This junior heard it. Fairy Xianhua's body felt weak and her voice trembled. They have already lost their conscience. How can their words be taken seriously? Since you feel that the Imperial Thunder sect is wrongly accused, then what evidence do you have? What reason do you have for this old man to believe your Imperial Thunder sect? Luo Xingtian asked indifferently. At this moment, Taoist Swiftwind hurriedly said, Lord Alliance Master, you are the Vice-Alliance Master of the Immortal Alliance. This junior has a presumptuous request that I hope Lord Alliance Master will consider. And speak. Luo Xingtian nodded. The whereabouts of the two special envoys of the Immortal Alliance's Judgment Hall are important, Taoist Swiftwind said respectfully. But in the end, it's just two lives. Now that the four great sects of the state of Xi have besieged my Mount Lama, my Imperial Thunder sect has already sent out a battle team to prepare for battle. After the great battle of Dao and Sword, there have been many battles between sects, but today's imminent battle is rare. In this battle, the number of casualties won't be in the hundreds, but in the thousands or tens of thousands. Senior, as the Vice Alliance Master of the Immortal Alliance, you can't ignore these lives. This, Luo Xingtian seemed to be in a difficult position. However, he looked at the crowd and then at the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples guarding the edge of the array. He nodded and said, "In that case, this old man will make a temporary ruling. Sect Master of the Imperial Thunder Sect, first remove the undecided hills from your array. These hills will be temporarily managed by the Immortal Alliance. You all should also appeal to the Judgment Hall of the Immortal Alliance about this matter. This old man will also issue an Alliance Master's order to the Judgment Hall, and have them investigate carefully to find out the truth. What do you think?" Fairy Xianhua argued. "The problem is that these mountains have been set up with arrays. Removing the arrays will affect the power of my Imperial Thunder Sect protecting Grand Array. This junior feels that it's inappropriate." Luo Xingtian ignored Fairy Xianhua's argument. He turned to Sun Yunzi and the others and said, "As for you all, if you believe in this old man and the Judgment Hall of the Immortal Alliance, you might as well return today. You are all sects of the state of Xi and should support each other. You shouldn't go to war at the slightest provocation." This. Sun Yunzi lowered his head and thought for a moment. He nodded and said, "Since this junior is fated to meet Lord Alliance Master, and the Imperial Thunder Sect has the intention to correct their mistakes, then this junior will definitely not disappoint Lord Alliance Master. After the Imperial Thunder Sect removes the mountain protecting Grand Array, this junior will definitely persuade the 4 great sects of the state of Xi to leave. What do you all think?" Luo Xingtian was very satisfied and looked at Qi Jianghai and the others. Qi Jianghai smiled and said, "We came for justice, fairness and justice. As long as the Imperial Thunder Sect no longer bullies the Barking Sect, we naturally won't make things difficult for the Imperial Thunder Sect. I'll wait for the Imperial Thunder Sect to return those hills to the Barking Sect. Then we'll leave immediately. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank all forms of support." Chapter 5143. Good. Luo Xingtian clapped his hands and said, "Seeing that everyone is so righteous, this old man is very gratified. The country of Xi has the 4 great sects who are fair, just and righteous in your hearts, so why worry about the country of Xi not prospering? Even if the sword cultivators are rampant, even if the heavenly demon sect is arrogant, so what?" After Luo Xingtian sighed, he turned to Fairy Xianhua and said with a smile, "Imperial Thunder Sect Master, have you heard? Now it's time for you to choose. Whether you want peace or war, it's all up to you." Fairy Xianhua's mouth was bitter and full of grievances. She wanted to argue, but facing the Immortal Alliance and the 4 great sects of Xi that the Imperial Thunder Sect could not defeat, what could she say? All of his schemes had been exposed under the sun, but the sun was so cold that it did not warm his heart. Similarly, Fairy Xianhua hesitated again. If Luo Xingtian, the deputy leader of the Immortal Alliance, had not appeared, the Imperial Thunder Sect had no other way out and could only fight to the death with the 4 great sects of Xi. Then Fairy Xianhua would not hesitate at all, and would only say war. But now, with Luo Xingtian's appearance, the Imperial Thunder Sect miraculously had a chance to survive. Anyone facing this chance would inevitably have some other thoughts. Once this thought came to mind, Fairy Xianhua's thoughts of war inevitably began to extinguish. Seeing Fairy Xianhua hesitate, Luo Xingtian was somewhat displeased and said with a frown, "Fairy Xianhua, you are the leader of a sect. How can you be so indecisive? No wonder the Imperial Thunder Sect has declined so much in the past 1,000 years." Seeing this, Sage Jifeng hurriedly bowed and said, "Lord Alliance Master, this matter is of great importance. My Imperial Thunder Sect needs to discuss. This old man has no time." Luo Xingtian flatly refused. "Quickly end this matter. This old man still wants to ask about the whereabouts of the 2 special envoys of the Immortal Alliance." Sage Jifeng also hesitated for a moment, looked at the disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace and said to Fairy Xianhua, "Lord Alliance Master, this disciple feels that, rather than enduring humiliation, why don't we fight?" Hearing this, Sage Lei Meng's eyes lit up. He looked at Sage Jifeng and said, Jifeng, I was quite dissatisfied with you before, thinking that you were too scheming, but now I am convinced by your words. Fight. This. Fairy Yaofeng hesitated for a moment before saying, I think that there is no need for this battle. It's just a few of the southernmost peaks of my Lei Emo mountain range. Although it's within my sect protecting formation, it's also dispensable. Even if I give it to them, what can they do with it? Hearing Fairy Yaofeng's words, Zhishuanzi also flew back. He said, I also agree with Fairy Yaofeng's opinion. However, a few mountains are useless. Since Barbarian sect needs it, we'll just give it to them. This will also show the magnanimity of our Imperial Thunder sect. After that, Lei Tingzi and the others also expressed their opinions. Although most of them were willing to fight, after all, there was someone in charge. All of a sudden, the high morale of the Imperial Thunder sect's disciples was suppressed. Fight! At this moment, lightning flashed in the depths of the Raymore Mountains in the distance, and a few indignant voices sounded in unison. You are being bullied right in front of your eyes, and you still want to compromise? Today they can force us to give up a few mountains. Tomorrow they can cut off our Raymore Mountains. Every month we give in, and every year we compromise. How can our Imperial Thunder sect stand? Everyone was overjoyed and hurriedly looked over. Unfortunately, when they saw that it was only Wu Qing, Xiang Zhili, and Cui Yingying who flew back, they couldn't help but feel extremely disappointed. Fairy Xianhua hurriedly transmitted her voice. Wu Qing, where are the 3 elders? The 3 elders don't have much lifespan left. They said that we can't place our hopes on them. Everything depends on the sect master. Wu Qing replied indifferently. As for why they didn't come out, the sect master will know in a while. Is this the 3 elders' suggestion? Fairy Xianhua didn't give up and continued to ask. Xiang Zhili looked at Fairy Xianhua, raised his hand, and patted his chest. He said word by word. This is what I, an ordinary Imperial Thunder sect disciple, said. Similarly, this is what I shouted from the bottom of my heart. When has our Imperial Thunder sect been bullied in front of our door? As disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect, we can duel, quarrel, and curse, but we can't tolerate being bullied by others. Death isn't scary. We'd rather die in battle on the Thunder Mountain Range, and let our blood water the land that gave birth to us. What's scary is living an ignoble life, living under the oppression of others. Fight! Wu Qing didn't say anything else and only said one word. Fight! 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 There was no lack of hot-blooded disciples in the Imperial Thunder sect. Nearby nascent soul cultivators, golden core cultivators, and even chi refining disciples all raised their hands and shouted. Fairy Xianhua's face turned bright red. She looked around and said, This seat has only been in charge of the Imperial Thunder sect for 100 years. During this time, there have been many mistakes. Others have said that this seat is indecisive, that this seat is ambitious and unrealistic. This seat also doesn't want to explain. This seat's heart is the heart of the Imperial Thunder sect. I am a member of the Imperial Thunder sect, and even if I die, I will also be a ghost of the Imperial Thunder sect. Since you want to fight, then let's fight. Disciples. Unfortunately, before Fairy Xianhua could finish speaking, Luo Xingtian coldly said, Xianhua, have you decided? Do you want to fight? Fairy Xianhua's eyes flashed with unswerving determination as she replied word by word. That's right. My Imperial Thunder sect will stand and die. We will absolutely not bend our backs, and steal to live. Disciples. This time, Fairy Xianhua had learned her lesson. As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately raised a token and shouted, Listen to my command. Set up defenses outside the formation, and prepare to kill the enemy. Yes. Reverend Lei Meng and the others held their command arrows and responded in unison, directing their disciples to pass through the formation in an orderly manner. After Fairy Xianhua gave the command, she was also nervous. With Luo Xingtian, a great expert of unknown realm, beside her, she was really afraid that Luo Xingtian would disregard his status and attack. Fortunately, Luo Xingtian only watched and didn't show any signs of attacking. Even Sun Yunzi, Qi Jianghai, and the others didn't move a single finger. Fairy Xianhua could understand why Luo Xingtian, and Sun Yunzi didn't move. However, Fairy Xianhua didn't understand why Qi Jianghai, Reverend Ku Yi, and the others didn't move. Seeing that the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples had already formed a team outside the formation, Fairy Xianhua's heart suddenly quivered as if she had thought of something. She shouted, "Disciples!" Unfortunately, Fairy Xianhua's consciousness was still gone. Just as she finished speaking, a voice shouted, "Sect Master, disciple has something to ask." Fairy Xianhua raised her head and saw an old man flying out from the team. This old man had grizzled hair, a short and stout figure, and two triangular eyes faintly flashing with a trace of light. Wasn't this Zhen Yu of Thousand Thunder Mountain? Zhen Yu was now at the late gold core stage. Although his eyes were still flashing with light, there was a lot of turbidity behind that light, as if his heart was blinded by greed. "Zhen Yu," Fairy Xianhua thought for a moment and asked, "The war is about to begin. What do you have to say?" Reporting to Sect Master, Zhen Yu bowed and said, "Junior wants to ask, is the southernmost part of the Imperial Thunder Sect that isn't connected to the Lei Mo mountain range more important? Or is the lives of my Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples more important?" Damn it! Fairy Xianhua cursed inwardly. She knew that something she didn't want to see had happened. Her gaze was like lightning as she glanced at Sun Yunzi. Sure enough, Sun Yunzi had a sneer on his face, as if he was taking pleasure in her misfortune. Is there still a need for Sect Master to answer this? Daoist Swiftwind berated. Who came first, you or the Imperial Thunder Sect? Without the Imperial Thunder Sect, would there still be you? Senior, are you the Palace Master of the Heavenly Thunder Palace or the Sect Master of the Imperial Thunder Sect? Zhen Yu glanced at Daoist Swiftwind and asked indifferently, "Who do your words represent?" You. Daoist Swiftwind was somewhat at a loss for words. After all, he wasn't in a proper position right now. Fairy Xianhua said calmly, "Daoist Swiftwind's words represent this seat and the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even if this seat were to answer, it would still be the same." Sect Master, Zhen Yu said coldly, "Everything has been said by you to Daoist Swiftwind. The sky is about to be filled with heavenly flowers. It's a pity that not everyone will be deceived by your words and bewitched by Swiftwind Immortal's words. For your power and your future, you can turn black into white and white into black. You can also make us fight against the powerful and invincible four great sects for your desires. But have you ever thought that our lives are our own? You have no right to decide for us. Have you ever thought that if those mountain peaks are gone, you can occupy them again in the future? But if we lose our lives, we'll really be gone. Without us, what's the point of occupying those mountain peaks? Without us, will the Imperial Thunder Sect still be the Imperial Thunder Sect? For a few meaningless mountain peaks, you're prepared to easily throw away our lives. Do you have the Imperial Thunder Sect in your heart? Are you really the Sect Master of my Imperial Thunder Sect?" Fairy Xianhua was originally a proud and arrogant person. In the past few days, she had been repeatedly humiliated. Every time, she would forcefully suppress her anger. Until now, she had even gambled her position as Sect Master for Imperial Thunder Sect. However, in the mouth of Zhen Yu and the others, she was actually so unbearable. Of course, Fairy Xianhua knew that this was Sun Yunzi's trick, but she still couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. "Sect Master," Daoist Swiftwind hurriedly called out, "this guy's mouth is full of shit." "Sect Master, we're also not convinced." Before Daoist Swiftwind finished speaking, a nascent soul cultivator flew out from the battle team and shouted, "We also don't want to lose our lives for a few bare mountain peaks." Damn it! Daoist Thunder Meng was furious. He could see that this nascent soul cultivator was Zhen Xiaoyang, the Palace Master of the 100 Refinements Hall of the Thunderous Palace. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it as a reward, and... Chapter 5144. Although Zhan Yu was a disciple of the Thousand Lightning Mountain, he was still a gold core cultivator. His lifespan was nearing its end, so it was normal for him to be afraid of battle. However, Zhen Xiaoyang had just entered the nascent soul realm, so how could she be afraid of battle? Moreover, both of them were disciples of the Thunder Palace, so how could Thunder Meng Daoist keep his face? He couldn't help but roar. Damn it, are you all rebelling? That's right, if the sect master doesn't withdraw his order, we might as well rebel against the thunder-controlling sect. Zhen Xiaoyang didn't need to answer, as many gold core, foundation establishment, and even nascent soul disciples flew out from the formation and shouted. Fairy Xianhua spat out a mouthful of blood, but her chest felt slightly better. Her eyes flashed with a resolute expression that said she would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. She loudly shouted, "Very well. Since this is the case, disciples, I will give you the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. If anyone is willing to leave the Imperial Thunder School, leave now." That's right. Sun Yunzi roared with laughter when he heard this, and then he raised his voice and said, "My son's barbarian sect is recruiting disciples, so all of you are definitely on the same level as the Hall Master. Moreover, with the Alliance Master of the Immortal Alliance here, even the Lightning Control sect wouldn't dare make things difficult for all of you." This old man is willing. Zhen Yu flew out following Sun Yunzi's voice. Behind him, most of the disciples of the Thousand Lightning Mountain flew out, followed by the disciples of the 100 Refining Palace. Even the disciples of the Thunder Palace's Swallow Thunder Ridge all flew behind Li Feng. Looking at Thunder Meng Daoist, his face was also flushed red. If not for Fairy Xianhua's example, he would also spit out blood. In just half an incense stick's time, 30% of the disciples had left. Not to mention that the offensive formation couldn't be assembled. Even the defensive formation had many flaws. Fortunately, perhaps because Luo Xingtian was here, or because they had absolute confidence, Qi Jianghai and the others only stood in the air and watched carefully. They didn't take action, nor did they command the disciples of the four sects to attack. Seeing that the defensive formation couldn't be formed, Fairy Xianhua's heart was filled with sorrow. She said, "Disciples, enter the sect's defensive formation." All of the disciples had already experienced Fairy Xianhua's sorrow. Their eyes were filled with tears as they watched their fellow comrades leave. They really didn't understand just what had happened to all those lofty words and lofty aspirations that they had spoken just now. However, they knew that the Imperial Lightning sect was in their hearts. With this foundation, they were no longer fence-sitters. They were people with a foundation. Perhaps their heads could be cut off and their blood could flow, but their roots were still in the thunder-controlling sect's Mount Lama. Fairy Xianhua's order had just landed when in the distant horizon, faint rumbling sounds of thunder could be heard. Lightning escape technique? Fairy Xianhua was overjoyed and quickly looked over with a smile on her face. She saw that in the distance, lightning was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of a pond. It rippled and an old cultivator with a simple appearance appeared. "Thunderclap Master." Fairy Xianhua groaned in a low voice. She was just about to speak when her heart shook, and she didn't move at all. She ordered, "Disciples, speed up." Yes. The disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect who held fast to their beliefs didn't dare to be slow. They sped up and entered the Imperial Thunder sect's protective formation. Sun Yunzi was the same as before. His expression was the same as before. It was as if Thunderclap Master hadn't appeared. Rumble. Before Guru Lei Ting could land, thunder rumbled in the sky to the west. Another thin old man arrived on thunder. His face was covered in wrinkles, and they looked like weeds growing on a mountain. "Master Genyuan?" Fairy Xianhua covered her mouth in surprise. She was ecstatic. Soul formation cultivators had appeared one after another in this death zone. The two soul formation cultivators of the Imperial Thunder sect had powerful lightning escape techniques. In the blink of an eye, they arrived before everyone. Aside from the nascent soul cultivators who were standing respectfully, the other disciples entered the formation in an orderly manner. Junior Xianhua greets Thunderclap Master and Master Genyuan. Fairy Xianhua didn't hesitate and knelt in the air. She humbly said, "Disciple is incompetent and has brought the Imperial Thunder sect into a desperate situation. Seniors, please punish me." Who would have thought that both Thunderclap Master and Master Genyuan would ignore her, and instead look at the starfall sky? However, they didn't say anything as if they were waiting for something. Starfall Sky had a smile on his face as if he was facing two ants. He also didn't say anything as if he was waiting for something. After the meal, the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect all hid in the array. In the distance, There was a rumbling sound. Another thin figure appeared. It was a soul formation cultivator with anger on his face. Lightning flashed around him as he landed in front of everyone like a bolt of lightning. The cultivator didn't get close. He immediately shouted, "Starfall Sky, what are you doing?" Starfall Sky looked at the cultivator and sneered. "Thunderclap Master, is this how you talk to the Vice Alliance leader of the Celestial Alliance?" "Humph." Thunderclap Master stood in the air and coldly snorted. "If you were the Vice Alliance leader of the Celestial Alliance, I would naturally be respectful to you and wouldn't need you to say anything. However, if you're using your power for personal gain, don't expect me to be respectful to you." After saying that, Thunderclap Master and Master Genuine said, "Senior Martial Brothers, I've already asked the Alliance leader of the Celestial Alliance, Taoist Master Xianqing. He clearly said that the Celestial Alliance only acts as a mediator during the Great War of Immortals and Demons. Other than the Great War of Immortals and Demons, the Celestial Alliance is just an empty shell. What Judgment Hall? It doesn't exist. The Celestial Alliance doesn't recognize it at all." "Huh?" Thunderclap Master laughed and said. "In other words, Vice Alliance Leader Luo, your Bullsh*T judgment order is Bullsh*T? Master Genuine shouted. "Since it's an invalid judgment order, since it's Bullsh*T, why should the Imperial Thunder Sect accept it?" Really? Fairy Xianhua felt as if she had been granted amnesty and couldn't help but say with tears in her eyes, "This arbitration order is... What is this judgment order?" Luo Xingtian sneered. "Do you think this judgment order is Bullsh*T? After saying that, Luo Xingtian pointed at the traitorous Imperial Thunder Sect disciple and said with a smile, "This judgment order is the spiritual treasure that split your Imperial Thunder Sect disciple into two." Luo Xingtian then pointed at the country of Shi's four sects that surrounded the Imperial Thunder Sect and said, "This judgment order is the spiritual treasure that will destroy your Imperial Thunder Sect." In the end, Luo Xingtian pointed at Thunderclap Master, Master Genuine, and Thunderclap Master and said with a smile, "This judgment order is the order that will take your lives." When Luo Xingtian finished speaking, the three spirit-severing cultivators trembled, and their faces turned pale. Luo Xingtian said indifferently, "According to what I know, you should still have 10 years of lifespan left. However, you used your divine ability to go to the Celestial Alliance. 10 years of lifespan have already been used on the road. Damn it!" Master Genuine cursed angrily. "Even if I used my lifespan on the road, it would still be better than you wasting your lifespan on crafty schemes." Luo Xingtian coldly looked at Thunderclap Master and said meaningfully, "Thunderclap Master, since he has already made it clear, why didn't he come with you?" "This." Thunderclap Master hesitated for a moment and didn't answer. Lord Alliance Master Dupeng, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. "Didn't you come to find the two envoys? Since the country of Shi's four sects didn't see them leave, I believe they must be in the Imperial Thunder Sect. Why don't you go in and search for them?" Luo Xingtian nodded and said, "Imperial Thunder Sect, the two envoys of my Celestial Alliance's Judgment Hall came to the Imperial Thunder Sect to send a message. After that, there was no news. This old man suspects that your Imperial Thunder Sect killed the two envoys and destroyed the judgment order. This old man wants to search your Mount Lama." "Damn it!" Fairy Xianhua was already furious. She shouted, "Mount Lama is the foundation of my Imperial Thunder Sect. Without my permission, who dares to enter? Without my permission, who dares to explore?" "Ha ha ha." Dupeng laughed and said, "This is really funny. Your Imperial Thunder Sect stole this old man's spiritual treasure, and still dares to boast about being righteous. Don't slander us. Who stole your spiritual treasure?" Fairy Xianhua was furious and shouted, "My Imperial Thunder Sect is upright and upright. How could we do such a sinister thing?" "Senior." Dupeng ignored Fairy Xianhua and bowed to Luo Xingtian. "Please make a decision on this matter." Luo Xingtian curiously asked, "Huh? What's going on?" Dupeng glanced at Fairy Xianhua and took out an emerald green toad from his bosom. He handed it to Luo Xingtian and said, "Senior, Although this junior has just arrived at the Dawn Rain continent, this junior sensed the aura of this junior's spiritual treasure. This is a part of this junior's spiritual treasure. Please make a decision. Luo Xingtian took the emerald green toad and looked at it. He seemed to be puzzled and said, "What's going on?" This is the activation secret technique of this junior's spiritual treasure. Du Ping hurriedly took out a jade slip and handed it to Luo Xingtian. Senior will know once you take a look. Strange. Luo Xingtian took the jade slip and said. He probed it with his divine sense and looked at it for a moment. Then he pointed at the toad and countless emerald lights appeared on it. Seeing the emerald lights enter the sky, Master Lei Ting frowned and said, "Luo Xingtian, what are you doing?" Luo Xingtian coldly looked at the three spirit-severing cultivators and said, "If you were content with staying in the depths of the Thunder Emo mountain range, you might have 10 years of lifespan. But now, can you still stand in front of this old man for 2 hours?" Master Lei Ting and the others trembled as if they understood something. They raised their hands and pointed at Luo Xingtian. You, what's wrong with me?" Luo Xingtian roared. Shua. The emerald green brilliance on the toad rushed into the sky like the Milky Way, and then rushed towards the Imperial Thunder Sect's sect protection array like a flood. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5145. Ka. As the green light spread out, countless tiny lightning bolts were produced on the sect-protecting Grand Array. In less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the entire sect-protecting Grand Array began to tremble. Boom. It was unknown where it began to collapse, but the sect-protecting Grand Array let out an indescribable sound of collapse. What is going on? Fairy Xianhua turned pale with fright. The sect-protecting formation of the Imperial Thunder Sect was the last line of defense for the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. If this formation collapsed, the Imperial Thunder Sect would have no other choice but to be destroyed. Boom, boom, boom. Countless explosions sounded everywhere. In the end, boom. An earth-shattering thunder sounded. From the depths of the Lei Mo Mountains, a huge lightning ball was born. At the same time, the toad in Luo Xingtian's hand flew out of his hand and pounced towards the lightning ball, as if it was searching for treasure. Before it could get close, the toad had already turned into a 1,000 feet large shadow. This shadow was not like the spirit treasure toad, but was very lifelike. It was like a real toad that could swallow heaven and earth. It opened its mouth wide and fell towards the lightning ball. Boom. Light and darkness intertwined. The green light closed and the lightning ball was actually covered by the toad's light. After a huge explosion, the lightning ball and the toad rapidly shrunk. When everyone saw it clearly, wasn't it a toad playing with a pearl? The thunder subjugation pearl that Qian Qinghua obtained was in the toad's mouth. Moreover, with the disappearance of the thunder subjugation orb, the Imperial Thunder Sect's protective formation began to crumble inch by inch. The entire Lei Mo Mountains was like a shy virgin naked in front of the 4 sects of the country of Xi. Luo Xingtian. Suddenly, Wu Qing roared loudly. Qian Lazy was killed by you. Before he died, he already. Unfortunately, before Wu Qing could finish, boom. A huge fist flew across the sky and hit Wu Qing's body. Wu Qing screamed and fell down like a rock. Wu Qing. Cui Yingying only had Wu Qing in her eyes. She roared and pounced towards Wu Qing. Luo Xingtian raised his hand, and the toad landed in his hand. Luo Xingtian looked around with satisfaction and said, Du Peng, do you see? The cultivators of the Lost Land were indeed ignorant. They didn't even understand such a simple principle. How could there be benefits in this world for no reason? All I did was throw out a thunder subjugation bead, and today I've gained a thunder control sect. Yes, disciple understands. Du Peng bowed and said, but this thunder-controlling sect is too small, and Junior disdains to take charge of it. Haha, that's easy. Luo Xingtian laughed. I've already made the arrangements. It's fine if you don't want to. I'll leave the Imperial Thunder sect to someone else. Li Feng was overjoyed. Thinking that the other party was talking about him, he hurriedly bowed and said, Disciple thanks Lord Alliance head. Pooh. Seeing this, how could Master Lei Ting not know that this was premeditated by Luo Xingtian? He couldn't hold it in any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood essence, dispirited in mid-air. Senior. Wu Qing cried out in alarm and hurriedly flew over to support Master Thunderclap. Unfortunately, Master Thunderclap's body was trembling and his aura was weak. He was already on the verge of death. Luo Xingtian glanced at Master Thunderclap and seemed to be prepared for Master Thunderclap's death. He looked at Li Feng and said, Li Feng, you think too much. Pooh. Hearing this, Lei Yunzi spat out a mouthful of blood essence. He couldn't hold it in anymore. Cui Yingying turned pale with fright and shouted, Senior. Just as Cui Yingying supported Lei Yunzi, Luo Xingtian continued, I've already arranged a sect master in the Imperial Thunder sect. Damn it. Pooh. The last spirit-severing stage senior of the Imperial Thunder sect couldn't hold it in any longer. He cursed and spat out a mouthful of blood, also dispirited in mid-air. Xiang Zhili was already prepared and hurriedly flew out to support Master Zhen Yuan. At this moment, whether it was Master Zhen Yuan or Fairy Xianhua, everyone knew that there were more hidden pawns in the Imperial Thunder sect other than the exposed spies. Unfortunately, Luo Xingtian smiled mysteriously and said, Since all of you are dead, why should I reveal my trump card? If you want to die, then so be it. After saying this, Luo Xingtian looked at Sun Yunzi and said, Sun Yunzi, 2 special envoys of the Immortal Alliance went missing in the Imperial Thunder sect. The Imperial Thunder sect won't cooperate with the investigation. I order you to break the formation and enter to find out if they are alive or dead. Yes, Junior obeys. Sun Yunzi replied loudly. He raised his hand and waved. Disciples, listen to my command. Destroy the Imperial Thunder sect. Disciples. Fairy Xianhua didn't have time to think and hurriedly shouted. Listen to my command. Kill. Kill. Whether it was the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect or the disciples of the 4 sects surrounding the Imperial Thunder sect, they all roared. A great battle was about to break out. The Imperial Thunder sect was about to be destroyed. Esteemed Lei Ting, esteemed Zhen Yuan, and Lei Yunzi all opened their mouths. Their eyes were filled with despair. Although they couldn't see the future, they already knew the end of the Imperial Thunder sect. They stretched out their hands, wanting to grab onto hope, but hope floated away like a fish in water. Rumble. Suddenly, a thunderous roar came from the distant sky. Afterward, the entire world was engulfed in the wrath of thunder. Countless roaring thunder, dark clouds, thunder, and lightning bolts appeared as if the world was about to be destroyed. In the blink of an eye, the entire sky was covered in lightning. In the layers of dark clouds, countless lightning bolts roared like dragons. However, these lightning bolts didn't dare to be loud, for fear of alarming the people in the sky. Just as the lightning bolts roared, a divine sense poured over like a vast ocean. In an instant, it covered the entire Lei Mo mountain range. This divine sense was filled with the wrath of the thunder god and the majesty of a ruler. The shackles of heaven and earth were unparalleled, and the power of the human race was unparalleled. Lord Alliance Master of the Heavenly Alliance? Luo Xingtian and Du Peng were dumbfounded. Both of them were in disbelief. They couldn't believe it. How could such a majesty that was comparable to the Alliance Master of the Heaven Alliance appear in the Dawn Rain continent? Rumble. Just as the two of them were in shock, countless lightning bolts struck from the thunder. Then the entire world was filled with lightning bolts and majesty. Amidst the clouds of lightning and the picturesque sunlight, a thin and tall cultivator walked out as lonely as snow. The sky was his seat, the earth was his footstool, the thunder was his breath, and the lightning was his gaze. The world seemed to be in his hands, and everyone's attention seemed to be gathered on him. This was the return of the king. Foster, foster father. Xiang Zhili was the first to shout. This scene had appeared in his dreams countless times. Now that it appeared again, Xiang Zhili suspected that he was still dreaming. Little junior brother? Xiang Yang couldn't help but shout when he saw that the cultivator was as handsome as jade. However, his eyebrows were upside down, and he looked familiar with his phoenix-like eyes. Senior brother Xiao. Cui Hongshan's tears suddenly fell, and he couldn't say another word. Xiaohua. Shua**** finally woke up, and pleasant surprise filled his heart. You're actually still alive. Of course, with this thought, Shua**** became sorrowful again. Old man, you had eyes in the underworld. When you were alive, you wanted Xiaohua to give you face, but in the end, you didn't wait. Today this child Xiaohua can finally hold his head high. Your face in the Thunder Control sect, in the Dawn Rain continent, is unprecedented. Amidst the rain of lightning, Xiaohua floated over. His divine sense swept over, and his might enveloped the world as if it was sealed. Although he still hadn't landed, Xiaohua's seemingly ordinary expression was like that of a god. Without any hesitation, he said indifferently, Du Peng, you narrowly escaped death from the Yilin continent to the Dawn Rain continent. Was it all for these schemes and machinations? Since that's the case, you'd better return. Finished speaking, Xiaohua extended his hand. In an instant, it was as if the entire vault of heaven fell. Du Peng clearly had the strength of a spirit-severing stage cultivator, but in Xiaohua's large hand, he wasn't even comparable to an infant. Bang! Xiaohua's large hand fell and grabbed Du Peng. Amidst his flesh and blood bursting, a demonic figure hurriedly flew out. Ji Peng, you've already revealed your true body. Why do you need to leave? Xiaohua muttered softly. As if thunder had descended, countless lightning bolts appeared out of thin air, forcibly imprisoning this demonic figure. In an instant, the demonic figure turned into scattered ashes, and its divine soul scattered. Senior. The lofty Luo Xingtian no longer dared to have any hesitation. He knelt on the ground and said, Junior has been bewitched by this devil. Your scheme is very far-sighted. Even this old man admires you. Xiaohua expressionlessly looked at Luo Xingtian and said, If it was someone else, they would presumably let you go. Unfortunately, you don't know that this thunder-subduing bead was personally brought back to the Thunder Control sect by this old man. If I don't kill you, how can this old man understand the cause and effect? Besides, if you covet any sect or sect in the Dawn Rain continent, this old man won't make things difficult for you. Unfortunately, you actually dared to place your ambitions on the Thunder Control sect. Although the Thunder Control sect expelled this old man, the myriad Thunder Valley that this old man came from is still in the Thunder Control sect. If this old man doesn't kill you, who will I kill? You. Luo Xingtian suddenly came to a realization and said in shock, You're Xiaohua? The abandoned disciple of the Thunder Control sect? The Thunder Control sect can do without this old man, but this old man can't do without the Thunder Control sect in his heart. Xiaohua said indifferently and waved his hand again. A light figure like a thunder god descended and grabbed the lofty Luo Xingtian. Since you dare to offend the Thunder Control sect, then you can only use your life to pay for it. Senior, spare my life, spare my life. Luo Xingtian loudly begged. Boom! Xiaohua's lightning hand tightly locked onto Luo Xingtian's body. Luo Xingtian's body was unable to resist and shattered. A panicked primordial spirit was revealed. It was extremely frightened. Boom! Lightning flashed in the sky for no reason, and smashed onto this primordial spirit. It was faster than rain falling on an ink painting. Luo Xingtian's primordial spirit quickly faded. Xiaohua. Master Lei Ting called out softly and closed his eyes peacefully. This is Taoist Master Xiao? Master Zhen Yuan was also surprised and looked at Xiaohua in disbelief. Lei Yunzi took a deep breath and called out, Fairy Xianhua, Xiaohua. Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, the lifespan that was hastily consumed had already disappeared. Lei Yunzi left unwillingly. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Xiaohua has finally returned. The king has returned. In order to thank fellow Taoists for not leaving and abandoning me, I added a chapter to thank everyone. Chapter 5146. Before Xiaohua landed, he had already seen clearly that Lei Yunzi and Master Lei had long reached the end of their lifespans. The reason why they were still gasping for breath was because they had used some kind of secret technique. Because these secret techniques were heaven-defying, Xiaohua's rejuvenation pill and peach of immortality were unable to do anything to them. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't waste those precious spirit fruits. Seeing the two spirit-severing cultivators fall, Xiaohua raised his hand and beckoned again. The dark green toad with the thunder-subduing bead in its mouth fell into his hand. Xiaohua's gaze was like lightning. After looking at it for a moment, he sneered and said, "You can really endure. Back then, were you hiding inside it? Because your secret technique came from the Yilin continent's Heaven Alliance. No one on the Donrain continent knew about it. Therefore, you set up a trap for Qian Qinghua to fall into and send the thunder-subduing orb back to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even Master Qian Lei couldn't find your primordial spirit hidden inside the thunder subjugation bead. I'm afraid that Master Qian Lei hasn't relaxed his vigilance in the past 1,000 years. You never had a chance." Following Xiaohua's voice, the thunder subjugation pearl emitted layers of light, and Luo Xingtian's figure gradually appeared in the lightning. However, at this time, Luo Xingtian's face was filled with panic, as if he was trying his best to escape. "Since you've already chosen the place where you'll fall, this old man will fulfill your wish." Xiaohua smiled faintly, and a ball of lightning appeared in his hand. Rumble! Countless bolts of lightning entered the thunder-subduing pearl, and a faint wailing sound came from the lightning. Luo Xingtian used the thunder subjugation bead to scheme against the Imperial Thunder Sect and kill Master Qian Lei. However, his last trace of primordial spirit was also destroyed by the thunder subjugation bead. After annihilating Luo Xingtian's primordial spirit, Xiaohua didn't stop. With a grab of his large hand, "Kacha!" the dark green toad was crushed into powder by him. Soon after, Xiaohua used his finger to point at the thunder annihilation pearl. Whoosh! The thunder annihilation pearl rushed into the sky and disappeared into the vast expanse of lightning. However, a fist-sized vortex was born within the thunder annihilation pearl, and countless bolts of lightning fell into it like a myriad of streams returning to their origin. Senior. Seeing that Xiaohua easily killed Luo Xingtian and Du Peng, who were at the Void Refinement Realm, Sun Yunzi hurriedly fell to the ground in midair and shouted, "Junior has been wronged. Junior is innocent." Sun Yunzi fell to the ground. Qi Jianghai and the others didn't dare to hesitate, and fell to the ground as well. Kill. At this moment, in the distant sky, endless battle cries rang out. The four sects of the state of Shi that had originally surrounded the Imperial Thunder Sect suddenly discovered that behind them, there were disciples several times stronger than them that had surrounded them like iron buckets. At this moment, they were wielding magic treasures and fiercely charging towards them. "Fortune Gate disciples, listen to my command." Xiaohua stood high in the air like a fiend, issuing his order. "Kill. Those who dare to offend the Imperial Thunder Sect will be killed without mercy. Obey the sect master's order, kill." Countless Fortune Gate disciples roared, their voices echoing in the sky. The disciples who had betrayed the Imperial Thunder Sect felt like dying. Unfortunately, there was no time for them to indulge in such thoughts. The Fortune Gate's disciples had already formed an iron-blooded battle team and pounced on them. Ah! Xiaohua lowered his head to look at Venerable Zhen Yuan and asked, "Are you a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect?" Junior is indeed a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Venerable Zhen Yuan didn't dare to delay, and tried to struggle out of Xiang Zhili's embrace. Unfortunately, his lifespan was already exhausted, and he couldn't get up no matter how hard he tried. "You're quite lucky," Xiaohua said indifferently. With a wave of his hand, a peach of immortality appeared in front of him and he said, "Eat this." Venerable Zhen Yuan received the peach of immortality, and hurriedly ate it without any hesitation. He felt a warm current rush into his limbs and bones, and a wave of warmth spread throughout his body. Venerable Zhen Yuan was overjoyed and stood up from Xiang Zhili's embrace. He bowed and said, "Junior thanks Senior for his generous gift." "There's no need to thank me." Xiaohua waved his hand indifferently. "It's just a little bit of lifespan. Use it carefully." "Yes, Junior understands." Venerable Zhen Yuan was shocked. He didn't dare to believe it, but he also believed that Xiaohua wouldn't lie to him. He hurriedly bowed and said. Xiaohua's gaze swept past the cleansing flower sect's fairy Bai Hua, Splendid Sex Qi Jianghai, 7 Skills Sex Daoist Withered Leaf, and Xuanyan School's Fairy Poyu. He waved his hand, and the 4 of them saw a flash of light in front of their eyes. Their bodies actually landed on the battlefield several hundred li away. At the same time, Xiaohua's voice sounded in their ears. Although you've been bewitched, you still have ambitions in your hearts. This old man won't punish you. As long as you can break out of this encirclement, you can go. If you can't break out, then die here. Damn it. The 4 nascent soul cultivators felt a chill in their hearts when they saw the ferocious Fortune Gate's disciples. They cursed under their breath and hurriedly circulated their magic power to fight with the nascent soul cultivators. As for you, Xiaohua looked at Sun Yunzi and said, "There's no need for me to say anything, right? You also know why I must kill you. If you want to enter the cycle of reincarnation, you can kill yourself now. If this old man kills you, with this old man's hatred for you, your soul will definitely be destroyed." Sun Yunzi looked at the godlike Xiaohua and sighed. This junior understands. Since this junior did that thing back then, there's no need for me to regret it now. I hope that senior can treat my splendid sex disciples well. Most of them don't know what happened here. Since you're already dead, why worry about other things? Xiaohua said coldly. Pa. Sun Yunzi was indeed a formidable person. He didn't refute at all, and hit his own head. Blood splattered everywhere. A spirit-severing cultivator was killed by Xiaohua just like that. The entire place was silent. There was no more sound. Everyone was quietly looking at Xiaohua, as if they were in a dream. After Xiaohua appeared, the calamity of sect annihilation disappeared in less than half a cup of tea's time. Whether it was void refinement cultivators or spirit-severing cultivators, they all turned into ashes. Master's wife. Xiaohua, whose aura filled heaven and earth, suddenly shouted and withdrew his aura. Like a child, he turned into lightning and landed among the thousands of Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. He actually knelt in front of an ordinary golden core female cultivator and cried, "This disciple is unfilial and frightened Master's wife. This disciple is unfilial and frightened Master's wife. This disciple is unfilial and frightened Master's wife." A few words of deep apology sounded like thunder in the hearts of all the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. They stood there at a loss and didn't dare to believe their eyes. A cultivator who could easily kill the deputy leader of the Immortal Alliance was kneeling in front of a golden core cultivator. He was so humble and so filial. "Child." Zhuowu was shocked. With tears in his eyes, he gently helped Xiaohua up and said, "Get up. Master's wife won't blame you. Even your master, he won't blame you." When Zhuowu said this, she couldn't say another word. Helplessness blamed Xiaohua for not giving him face when he was alive. Even before helplessness died, Xiaohua was still expelled from the Imperial Thunder Sect by Fairy Xianhua. Although helplessness already knew that Xiaohua was a terrifying phoenix and a nameless nascent soul cultivator, he never gave Xiaohua any face when he was alive. At this time, Xiaohua returned gloriously. Not to mention the head of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even the leader of the Immortal Alliance had to kneel and greet him. This kind of glory was something that helplessness dreamed of. However, helplessness's soul had already returned to the netherworld, and he could no longer see it. When Zhuowu thought of this, how could she not be sad? A myriad of words transformed into, "Even if it's your master, he won't blame you." This sentence caused a crack sound to ring out in Xiaohua's heart. A knot in his heart was untied with these words, and Xiaohua's tears couldn't help but fall. He called out, "Master, disciple has let you down." Rumble. It wasn't Xiaohua's intention. Because of Xiaohua's body of laws, as long as some of his emotions leaked out, the sky would change. As Xiaohua cried, thousands of lightning roared and covered the entire Lamo mountain range. Everything in the world became austere. Thousands of thoughts died. A few moments later, Xiang Zhili flew over and said in a low voice, "Godfather, the Imperial Thunder Sect's crisis is not over yet. It's not too late to reminisce about the past after we return to the Myriad Lightning Valley." Xiaohua wiped his tears and stood up to look around. He said indifferently, "What crisis? Just some chickens and dogs. Let the Fortune Gate disciples clean them up." Wuching. What happened to you? Xiao Hua looked at Wuqing and quickly took out a jade bottle from his pocket, saying, "This is a medicinal pill this old man refined, quickly take it." "Thank you, second senior brother." Wuqing respectfully received the jade bottle, and calmly swallowed it. Then he saluted. "Junior brother greets senior brother." "Godfather." How could Xiang Zhili let Swift Wind off? He hurriedly pointed at Wuqing and said, "Previously, Wuqing fought with Swift Wind for the position of Heavenly Lightning Palace's palace master. Although Wuqing lost and was kicked out of the Thunder Arena by Swift Wind injured Wuqing in order to eliminate him from the Imperial Thunder Sect's sect master position." Hee. Xiao Hua turned to look at the flustered Swift Wind and grinned. "The Imperial Thunder Sect is this old man's former sect. Whoever dares to covet the Imperial Thunder Sect, this old man will definitely exterminate them. The Myriad Lightning Valley is this old man's birthplace. Whoever dares to touch a hair of my Myriad Lightning Valley's disciples, this old man will definitely exterminate them. However, this old man really didn't expect that your temperament hasn't changed after moving from the Dawn Rain mainland to the Yilin mainland, and then from the Yilin mainland to the Dawn Rain mainland. Earlier, this old man heard from Zhang Jie that he separated you from Du He because he was afraid that you would be killed by the devil race, but Zhang Jie underestimated the desire in your heart. You actually went to seek refuge with Du He again. Most likely, you coveted the Blue Imperial Thunder Sect's sect master position, and wanted to use Du He's scheme to step onto the Imperial Thunder Sect's sect master's throne, right? My senior brother Bai Fei? You. When Swift Wind heard the last part, it was as if he had seen a ghost. He exclaimed, "Your Taoist Xiao? That Taoist Xiao?" P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 5147. Xiao Hua laughed and said, "Of course I'm Taoist Xiao. I've never hidden my identity from the first time I saw you. Who else is like you, not daring to reveal your true face after coming to Dawn Rain Continent, to your hometown, and even pretending to be Taoist Swift Wind?" As he spoke, Xiao Hua raised his hand and pointed at Taoist Swift Wind's forehead. A fluctuation appeared, and like a flash of water, Taoist Swift Wind's appearance changed, turning into Bai Fei's appearance. Bai Fei's face was filled with disbelief, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness as he stared at Xiao Hua. Even in his dreams, he would never have thought that he wouldn't even be fit to carry Xiao Hua's shoes in the end. Rumble. Xiao Hua waved his hand again, and a thunderous hand fell down. He said, "Anyone who hurts my Myriad Thunder Valley's disciple die." Bai Fei's face was ashen as he watched the space being annihilated. He knew that his time of death had come. "Senior brother." Suddenly Wuqing spoke. "Can you spare his life?" "Oh." Xiao Hua smiled and asked why. Although he pretended to be Taoist Swift Wind, he was still able to step forward just now. He can be considered an unyielding man, Wuqing said in a low voice. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, and Xiang Zhili hurriedly explained in a low voice. Xiao Hua laughed and said, "Haha Wuqing, you were negligent." This was Luo Xingtian's two-pronged plan. On one hand, he manipulated the ordinary disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect, and on the other hand, he let Bai Fei replace Taoist Swift Wind. If either side succeeded, he could control the Imperial Thunder Sect. However, the previous Taoist Swift Wind was too weak, so Luo Xingtian didn't care. After that, Bai Fei's ability far exceeded Taoist Swift Wind's, and also far exceeded Luo Xingtian's expectations. The more righteous Bai Fei is, the more he can get the position of Imperial Thunder Sect's head. He's just pretending. Wuqing already understood Xiao Hua's words. However, he still smiled and said, "Although he was a little cunning that day, he still defeated me fair and square. If senior brother kills him, how can I find him for revenge?" This. Xiao Hua looked at Bai Fei. He knew that Bai Fei was a scheming person. Even Xiao Hua himself might not be able to compare to Bai Fei. But at the same time, a scheming person like Bai Fei was also a whetstone for Wuqing. Rather than killing Bai Fei now, it would be better to let Bai Fei help Wuqing grow. "All right." Xiao Hua finally nodded and said, "Since that's the case, this old man will spare him." However, when Xiaohua released his thunderous hand, he suddenly made a grabbing motion and grabbed Bai Fei's back. He coldly said, "How could a filthy person like you be worthy of Guangyu of the holy light world?" Kacha. Amidst the surging lightning, a transparent feather of light was pulled out by Xiaohua. Ah! Bai Fei screamed miserably. Unexpectedly, he looked as if he was about to faint, and that transparent feather of light fell into Xiaohua's hand. Ka ka ka. Countless sparks of lightning burned the feather of light to nothing in an instant. Bai Fei was thrown into the air by Xiaohua, but as his clothes were in a mess, a fluctuation fell into Xiaohua's eyes. Xiaohua raised his hand and grabbed, and a jade bottle wrapped in rags immediately fell into Xiaohua's hand. Oh, so it's this thing. When Xiaohua saw the jade bottle, he immediately thought of the small bottle he saw on Luofeng Mountain. He smiled and said, "No wonder you were able to reach the late nascent soul stage in such a short time." The moment Xiaohua threw the small bottle to Bai Fei, he raised his eyebrows and a strange light flashed in his eyes. This was because he actually saw many fragmented law fluctuations within the small bottle. These law fluctuations were born and died, giving birth to even more new laws. There were actually endless mysteries within. Interesting. Xiaohua's eyes turned, and the small bottle in his hand immediately disappeared. His mind also immediately entered the space. However, after a moment, Xiaohua's mind left the space, and the small bottle along with the rags appeared in his hand again. This time was extremely short. Xiaohua's body flickered with lightning, and no one noticed Xiaohua's deliberate small movements. Xiaohua waved his hand and threw the rags and the small bottle to Bai Fei again. He coldly said, "The cultivation of the Tao lies in the heart. The so-called magic treasures, secret techniques, and so on are all external objects. Although you relied on this item to reach the late nascent soul stage, your heart is not right, and your intentions are not right. How can you achieve good results?" Bai Fei's face was filled with shame, and the hand holding the small bottle trembled slightly. He regarded the small bottle as his greatest secret, but in Xiaohua's eyes, it was like dirt. In particular, Bai Fei felt that he was the luckiest cultivator in the world with the small bottle. When he returned to the Dawn Ring continent, he could definitely trample Xiaohua under his feet. Even when he injured Wu Qing, it was not without reason to vent his anger. However, the reality was so cruel. Facing Xiaohua, not to mention trampling on him, even if he looked up, he could not see Xiaohua's depth, and Xiaohua simply disdained to trample on him. Oh, there's also. Xiaohua still wanted to speak, but he suddenly thought of something and took out the Kunlun mirror. Ong! A light beam flashed, and Jiyu flew out while holding Yi Yun's hand. At this time, Yi Yun's face was filled with happiness, and Jiyu was also smiling. When the two saw the scenery change, they unconsciously stared blankly. When they saw Xiaohua, they hurriedly bowed and saluted. "Disciple greets head elder." And Xiaohua raised his hand and helped the two up. He said, "I'm sorry to disturb you too. However, the two of you still have a karma to settle with this bastard, so let's settle it now." Jiyu and Yi Yun followed Xiaohua's gaze and saw the pale-faced Bai Fei. Anger appeared in Jiyu's eyes, and Yi Yun showed even more disdain. Yi Yun did not hesitate at all. She took out the wind wheel from her storage pouch and threw it at Bai Fei's face. She coldly said, "Bai Fei, I was really blind to have taken a fancy to a beast like you. I really did not expect that for the sake of cultivation, you would actually deliberately scheme against me. Could it be that in your eyes my affection for you, my sacrifice for you, my sincerity, is not worth that little increase in your cultivation? For a selfish cultivator like you, even if you succeed in cultivation, so what? In my eyes, in the eyes of the world, you are not even comparable to a dog raised by a secular family. Therefore, I still advise you not to be too selfish in your cultivation in the future, or else you will really become something worse than a pig or a dog." Damn. Xiaohua did not expect Yi Yun's mouth to be so powerful. With just a few words, Bai Fei's face alternated between red and white. He hurriedly said with a smile, "Yi Yun, now that the karma has been settled, quickly go back and cultivate. In the future, your cultivation will definitely be stronger than his." "Yes, this disciple understands." Yi Yun hurriedly shut her mouth and bowed. This disciple thanks sect master for reminding this disciple that I was not destroyed in the hands of this thing worse than a pig or a dog. PFFF. Bai Fei could not hold it in anymore. He vomited blood and withered in the air. Xiao Hua sneered. He glanced at Bai Fei and said, "Even now you are still acting in front of this old man? This old man has already promised Wu Qing not to take your life, so naturally, I won't take your life. What's the point of pretending to be angry?" AI too fake. Yi Yun sighed and said, "What's the point of living in this world with such a person?" Xiao Hua said indifferently, "I hope you all can use him as a reference, be honest with each other, and face each other sincerely. This disciple will." Ji Yu and Yi Yun both bowed and replied. After Xiao Hua kept the two of them into his space, he waved his hand at Bai Fei and said, "Hurry up and leave." Seeing that Xiao Hua had seen through him, Bai Fei could no longer continue acting. He stood up and wanted to salute Xiao Hua, but he was too ashamed to do so. He resentfully looked around him. Other than a look of disdain, there was nothing else he could do. He clenched his teeth and secretly swore to himself that he would return today's humiliation 1,000 times over. Then he urged his body and flew towards the direction where the battle had weakened. Bai Fei left. Only Li Feng, who was like a clown, was left in the air. Li Feng opened his mouth, wanting to beg for mercy. But seeing that Xiao Hua didn't even kill Bai Fei, how could he possibly make things difficult for a few little gold cores? Thus he simply kept quiet and knelt in the air, waiting for Xiao Hua's punishment. How could Xiao Hua dirty his hands? He glanced at Xiang Zhili, who was beside him. Xiang Zhili snapped out of his daze and let go of Lord Zhenyuan's hand. He flew towards Li Feng and scolded, "Damn it! Why are you still here? Could it be that you still want to stay here for dinner?" Scram. As he spoke, he lifted his leg and kicked Li Feng's body. Li Feng was kicked away like a stone and landed far away in the middle of the battle. Whether or not he could escape alive would depend on his luck. Seeing that Li Feng had also left, Lord Zhenyuan whispered a few words to Fairy Xianhua. Fairy Xianhua hurriedly looked at Reverend Lei Meng and the others. They exchanged glances and simultaneously knelt in the air, saying, "The juniors of the Imperial Thunder Sect greet Reverend Xiao. We thank Reverend Xiao for saving our Imperial Thunder Sect." Immediately, Lord Zhenyuan was the first to kneel, followed by Fairy Xianhua, Reverend Lei Meng, Fairy Yaofeng, and the other nascent soul cultivators. Then, like a rolling wave, all the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect knelt in an orderly manner in front of the Lei Mo mountain range and said, "Thank you, Reverend Xiao, for your great kindness." Seeing all the disciples kneeling, Zhuang also lost her sense of propriety and hurriedly knelt down. However, before she could move, a huge force appeared in the air, and the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley were unable to move. All the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley stood behind Xiao Hua, and received the kowtows of the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Xiao Hua did not help the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect up. Instead he sighed and said, "Facing all of you, this Xiao wants to say something, but all the words that have reached my mouth are unable to come out. I do have feelings for the Imperial Thunder Sect. Otherwise, I wouldn't have rushed over as soon as I heard the news. However, all of this is in the past. The reason why the Imperial Thunder Sect declined to such a state is because of the change in the heaven and earth Ling Qi, and also because of itself. Which one is the root cause? You all know it in your hearts. As for the thanks, this Xiao feels that there is no need. After all, this Xiao was the one who brought the thunder-subduing bead back to the Imperial Thunder Sect. This Xiao rescuing all of you is just mending the pen after the sheep have been lost." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you to the Alliance leader of Yu Logia, and thank you for your rewards. This chapter will be updated for all of you. Because Tanhua was out on a business trip and did not have time to write, she just rushed back to update. Moreover, it is already nearing the end of the chapter, so there is no possibility of a large update. Please understand. Chapter 51-48. As he spoke, Xiao Hua raised his hand and pointed to the sky. Boom! With a huge roar, the thunder subjugation bead flew down from the sky. As the thunder subjugation bead fell, the lightning that filled the sky gradually dissipated, revealing the scorching sun hanging above everyone's heads. Xiao Hua released his divine sense and probed for a moment. With a wave of his right hand, a thunderous hand appeared and streaked across the sky, landing on the thunder subjugation bead. Boom boom boom. The thunder subjugation bead flashed with lightning like a dragon, trying to resist Xiao Hua's thunderous hand. Fall! Xiao Hua shouted as he grabbed the thunder subjugation bead and dropped it into the Thunder Mountain range. Boom boom boom. As the thunder subjugation bead fell, the entire Thunder Mountain range shook. Then, layers of lightning gushed out. The Imperial Thunder Sect's protective array was several times stronger than before. Amidst the lightning, the mountains shook and the earth trembled. Thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior. Fairy Xianhua was wild with joy. She shouted as tears flowed out of her eyes. Well, since you all have bowed down, this Xiao can't go empty-handed. Xiao Hua looked at everyone, especially the white-haired Thunder Meng Daoist, and sighed in his heart. He took out a storage pouch and handed it to Fairy Xianhua. This is this Xiao's gift to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Consider it as repayment for the Imperial Thunder Sect's cultivation in the past. This is... Fairy Xianhua was puzzled. When she opened the storage pouch and saw many jade slips inside, she couldn't help but frown. However, when she took out a jade slip and checked it, she exclaimed, This is the cultivation method from Qi refinement to tribulation transcendence? Ah? Not only was Fairy Xianhua shocked, but Thunder Meng Daoist and the others also turned pale with fright. Xiao Hua raised his hand, and a boundless power emerged from the void, helping all the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect to stand up. He said, The ancients are right, the grace of a drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. When this Xiao joined the Imperial Thunder Sect, my master had no choice but to teach me the Imperial Thunder Sect's cultivation method. Today this Xiao will return the complete disciple selection method and cultivation method to the Imperial Thunder Sect. This is precisely to end the karma between us. This Xiao can only help the Imperial Thunder Sect, this is all. The road in the future is up to you all. Yes, we understand. Fairy Xianhua held the storage pouch tightly in her hand, as if she had obtained a priceless treasure. Xiao Hua turned to look at the 10,000 Lightning Valley's disciples, then added, However, this Xiao has also created a fortune gate. My disciples are the ones who killed the 4 sects' disciples who besieged the Imperial Lightning Sect, the 10,000 Lightning Valley's disciples. Little junior brother. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to finish speaking, Xiang Yang suddenly interrupted. Elder brother is already old. I don't want to be tormented anymore. I appreciate your kindness, but since I've entered the Imperial Thunder Sect, I'll be a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect for the rest of my life. At this point, Xiang Yang looked sadly in the direction of the Myriad Thunder Valley and said, Besides, Master has always been proud of being a disciple of the Myriad Thunder Valley. He probably doesn't want the Myriad Thunder Valley to disappear from the Thunder Control Sect, right? Xiao Hua. Shua **** smiled and said, What Xiang Yang said is true. We are all old and like to stay in the Myriad Thunder Valley. You don't need to say anything more. Dui Qi Meng frowned and hurriedly said, Of course, I won't say anything. If the children are willing. Hearing this, how could Fairy Xianhua not know what she should do? She hurriedly raised her voice and said, Daoist Xiao Jr., as the sect master of the Imperial Thunder Sect, declares that the Myriad Thunder Valley will remain in the Imperial Thunder Sect forever. No one can eliminate it. Moreover, the Myriad Thunder Valley's disciples can enter the Fortune Gate as they wish. My Imperial Thunder Sect will forever recognize the Myriad Thunder Valley's disciples as my Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. Many thanks. Xiao Hua smiled and said to Fairy Xianhua. He then turned to Xiang Yang and the others and said, It was younger brother's rashness. There's no need to mention this matter again. Let's go, we'll return to the Myriad Thunder Valley. Just as Xiao Hua was about to lead the Myriad Thunder Valley's disciples back to the Myriad Thunder Valley, Lord Zhenyuan suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, Senior, Junior has something to report. Oh, what do you have to say? Xiao Hua was slightly stunned and turned around to ask. That. Lord Zhenyuan hesitated and probed. Is Senior's dual cultivation partner Fairy Hongxia? Xiaohua was startled and nodded. Indeed. Junior just received a piece of news outside the Imperial Thunder Sect. Is it related to Senior? Lord Zhenyuan didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly took out a jade slip and handed it to Xiaohua. Xiaohua received the jade slip and scanned it with his divine sense. He frowned and looked at Lord Zhenyuan. Is this true? Junior doesn't know. Lord Zhenyuan shook his head and said, when Junior returned from the Immortal Alliance, I was in a hurry to return to the Imperial Thunder Sect. I didn't deliberately investigate. Xiaohua nodded and the Kunlun mirror in his hand trembled. Yuanya flew out from the mirror and bowed. Disciple greets master. This is a piece of news from the Sky Patrol City. Take a look. Xiaohua handed the jade slip to Yuanya and said, after reading it, discuss with Xiongyi and the others and rush to the Sky Patrol City. Remember, there's no need to rush. Take it slow and force out the truth step by step. Yes, disciple understands. Yuanya took the jade slip and looked at it without saying anything. Then he flew back to the battlefield that had begun to settle down. Oh right. Xiaohua looked at Lord Zhenyuan and thought of something. He asked, did you participate in the previous Great Immortal Demon War? Junior participated. Lord Zhenyuan hurriedly replied. It's good that you participated. Xiaohua smiled and said, I originally had something to ask Luo Xingtian. I was too angry just now and actually forgot about it. Oh, Senior, what do you want to ask? Lord Zhenyuan hurriedly asked. Xiaohua smiled and said, do you know who were the spirit-severing stage cultivators from the Immortal Ascension sect and the Immortal Music sect that participated in the Great Immortal Demon War? The Immortal Ascension sect and the Immortal Music sect? Lord Zhenyuan hesitated for a moment and replied, according to what Junior knows, the spirit-severing stage cultivators from these two sects were Lord Lian Kuan, Meng Jiangzi, Feng Shu, Du Hong, Fan Li Chanxi Miao, and others. And then who were the teachers of Shan Xingzi and perfected Dui? Xiaohua asked. Naturally, it was Feng Shu and Chanxi Miao. Lord Zhenyuan said without hesitation. Good. The Kunlun mirror in Xiaohua's hand trembled again, and released the black bear spirit. Junior greets master. Seeing so many cultivators, the black bear spirit immediately knelt in front of Xiaohua and respectfully kowtowed. Esteemed Lord Zhenyuan. Xiaohua pointed at the black bear spirit and said, this is my Fortune Gate's black bear spirit. Bring him to Feng Shu and Chan Ximiao. If I'm not mistaken, the two of them are this Zhao's greatest enemies. Junior understands. Seeing that the black bear spirit, whose strength he couldn't determine, was actually Xiaohua's guard spirit beast, Lord Zhenyuan couldn't help but shrink his neck and reply. Master. The black bear spirit panicked when he heard that. He shouted, since it's a lifelong grudge, should I kill them? Not for now. Xiaohua smiled and said, I'm not completely sure yet. Just capture them and bring them back. Alright, Junior understands. The black bear spirit received the order and urged Lord Zhenyuan. Old brat, why aren't you bringing me over? Oh, he doesn't have much lifespan left. Bring him over. Xiaohua hurriedly ordered as if he remembered something. Sure. A demonic wind swirled around the black bear spirit as he brought Lord Zhenyuan up into the sky. Under Lord Zhenyuan's guidance, they flew towards the Immortal Ascension Gate. Master's wife, let's go. Xiaohua waved his sleeves and swept everyone from the Myriad Lightning Valley into the Myriad Lightning Valley. Fairy Xianhua only saw a blur in front of her, and Xiaohua disappeared. Zhuo Wu and the others were also gone. She couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. An indescribable feeling of defeat rose from the bottom of her heart. This feeling of defeat was like a dark cloud that permeated her entire body. In her disappointment, she couldn't help but look around. Looking at the Imperial Lightning Sect's intact sect protection formation, and the nascent soul cultivators around her, it was as if nothing had happened. It was as if the commotion just now was like a dream. Fairy Xianhua couldn't believe it. In order to control the Imperial Lightning Sect, the Vice Alliance Master of the Immortal Alliance, Luo Xingtian, had actually arranged so many hidden schemes. Thousand Lightning Mountain, Swallow Thunder Ridge, and the other Imperial Lightning Sect disciples had already submitted to Luo Xingtian at some point in time. Jifeng Taoist had also been replaced by Bai Fei at some point in time. As for the Thunder Subjugation Bead, it was obvious that Luo Xingtian was the first to send over the Imperial Lightning Sect. If there were no accidents, Master Qian Lazy had died because of the Thunder Subjugation Bead. The Imperial Lightning Sect's sect protection formation had also turned into nothingness because of the Thunder Subjugation Bead. In particular, Luo Xingtian had actually persuaded Splendid Sect, Qiqiao Sect, Xiwenyan School, and Huanhua Sect to join forces and destroy the Imperial Lightning Sect. Although these four sects kept saying that they acted on their own initiative, without the consent of the four sect masters, how could they have sent out so many disciples? In the face of such a scheme by the Vice Alliance Master of the Immortal Alliance and the four great sects of the state of Xi, the Imperial Lightning Sect absolutely had no power to fight back. If Xiaohua hadn't appeared in time, the Imperial Lightning Sect wouldn't have been able to escape the fate of being destroyed. However, Xiaohua was personally expelled from the Imperial Lightning Sect by Fairy Xianhua, and the Myriad Thunder Valley was almost erased from the Imperial Lightning Sect by Fairy Xianhua. Fairy Xianhua was now very scared. She didn't dare to imagine what Xiaohua's reaction would be if he knew what she had done to the Myriad Thunder Valley. Thinking of this, Fairy Xianhua let out a long breath. She opened her mouth to say something, but when she looked again, she saw that Thunder Meng Taoist, Fairy Yaofeng, and the others were looking at the direction Xiaohua disappeared in. It was unknown what they were thinking. Cough cough. Fairy Xianhua let out a low cough and said, "Everyone, what do you think?" Thunder Meng Taoist and the others came back to their senses. They looked at each other and said with a wry smile, "Honorable Sect Master, what can we think? We only feel that our lifespans have been wasted." Fairy Xianhua also gave a wry smile and nodded. "It's not just you. This seat also feels the same. Previously, when this seat saw Xiang Zhili and Cui Yingying, I felt that their aptitudes were too heaven-defying. In just a few hundred years, they were able to step into the early nascent soul stage. It was really inconceivable. But later, this seat saw Wu Qing. Wu Qing was much younger than Xiang Zhili, but he had cultivated to the middle nascent soul stage. This seat was even more ashamed and felt that the heavens were unfair. This seat had cultivated for so long, but Wu Qing was about to catch up to me. Thunder Meng Taoist, oh, there's no need to talk about that, Bai Fei. He is even more powerful than Wu Qing. And this seat has never even heard of his name. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, and reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Thank you to Empty Chin, Fern Luster, loyal fan of Divine Cultivation, Kai Gue Hun, Phosphorescent Dance, Chuan Tong, and other fellow Taoists for their rewards. Chapter 5149. Even if they are powerful, when facing them, I can still feel jealousy in my heart. I feel that they are really favored by the heavens. At the same time, I can also encourage myself to be on par with them. Fairy Xianhua paused for a moment and said, "However, when facing Taoist Xiao, I don't have the courage to think about these things. First, he killed the spirit-severing stage cultivator, who was possessed by the devil race. Then, he killed the void refinement stage deputy leader of the Immortal Union. Finally, he even forced the spirit-severing stage cultivator to commit suicide. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, how could I believe it? The Qi refinement stage cultivator, who joined the Imperial Thunder sect back then. His cultivation has reached such an unimaginable level. How did he cultivate? I can only use the word unimaginable to describe Taoist Xiao. Being close to Xiaohua, Reverend Lei Meng also said, but this poor Taoist thinks about it again. Back then, during the Great Sword Battle, Reverend Xiao already had such a high level of power. Today, you are able to shine in front of our eyes. Fairy Xianfeng shook her head and said, Junior brother Lei Meng, you are wrong. No matter how strong Taoist Xiao was, he was only at the early nascent soul stage. From the early nascent soul stage to the unity stage, Taoist Xiao only used less than 1,000 years. 1,000 years of cultivation, You and I are well aware of it. Can someone reach the late nascent soul stage from the early nascent soul stage? Generally speaking, it is impossible. Lei Tingzi interrupted. Unless there is a great opportunity. But our Taoist Xiao has already reached the unity stage. Sheng Yunzi said excitedly. That is a peak that can only be reached after tens of thousands of years of cultivation. We can only use the word miracle to describe Taoist Xiao. Sigh. Zhi sighed. If only we didn't expel Taoist Xiao back then. When Fairy Xianhua heard this, her expression changed slightly. This was a scar in her heart. Previously, when Xiaohua, a nascent soul cultivator, was expelled, the Imperial Lightning Sect had become the laughingstock of the three countries. Now that Xiaohua had returned with the might of a unity stage cultivator and a powerful Fortune Gate army, wouldn't the Imperial Lightning Sect become a laughingstock once again? Unexpectedly, Taoist Lei Ming laughed and said, Junior brother is wrong. If not for the sect leader expelling Taoist Xiao that day, how could Taoist Xiao have today's achievements? If Taoist Xiao was still in the Imperial Thunder Sect, he would only be slightly stronger than us. At most, he would be similar to the three elders. How could such a Taoist Xiao be a match for Luo Xingtian? How can my Imperial Thunder Sect escape destruction? Haha, not bad, not bad. Fairy Yaofeng laughed and said, as the saying goes, everything is caused by karma. If it weren't for the sect master's banishment, how could Taoist Xiao have annihilated the falling star heavens today? It seems that sect leader, you are the real expert. You knew 1,000 years ago that Taoist Xiao would become a great person. If it was before, Fairy Yaofeng's words would have contained a hint of mockery. But in the difficult situation just now, Fairy Xianhua's resolute attitude of choosing death over dishonor had caused the eyes of Fairy Yaofeng and the others to light up, and some of the dissatisfaction in their hearts had already vanished. Therefore, her words revealed that she was definitely joking. Alas! It wasn't that Fairy Xianhua couldn't tell the joke, but she still said faintly, but I did expel Taoist Xiao after all, and cleaned up the myriad Thunder Valley. Reverend Lei Ming laughed and said, You think too much, sect leader. Didn't you hear what Taoist Xiao said? Imperial Thunder Sect can expel him, but he can't not have Imperial Thunder Sect in his heart. What do you have to worry about such a loyal and filial person? Fairy Jingfeng also persuaded. Besides, you are the sect leader of Imperial Thunder Sect. This is all within your authority. Even if you are wrong, Taoist Xiao can't blame you. I still feel that I should ask for Taoist Zhao's forgiveness. Fairy Xianhua said. He is the great benefactor of my Imperial Thunder Sect. If I don't ask for his forgiveness, I can't forgive myself. Seeing that Fairy Xianhua was somewhat indecisive, Reverend Lei Meng and the others had no other choice. They looked at each other and said, How about this, sect leader? Let's clean up the mess first and let Taoist Xiao reunite with the disciples of Myriad Thunder Valley. Tomorrow, we will go and ask for forgiveness together. How about it? What crime have you committed? Fairy Xianhua was stunned. Reverend Lei Ming laughed and said, If sect leader is guilty, then the disciples of Imperial Thunder Sect are guilty. If you go and ask for forgiveness, how can we not follow? Tears welled up in Fairy Xianhua's eyes. She tried her best to hold back and nodded. Yes, yes, since this was a matter of the cultivation sects. How could the Fortune Gate under Zhong Haoran's control be any better than the state of Xi's Imperial Thunder Sect with such complicated affairs? About 1,000 miles to the east of Sky Patrol City, there was a continuous foothill that looked like a sleeping beast in the night. The undulating lines were rough in the darkness. Occasionally moonlight would fall from the clouds and reveal more of these lines. The starting point of the lines was hidden in the dark night, and the ending point extended into the dark night. There was no end to be seen. Caw. A low cry of a night bird rang out from an unknown place, shaking the night sky and disturbing the clouds. Swoosh swoosh. As the clouds cruised, snowflakes sprinkled down like salt shafts. In just a moment, the darkness nearby was filled with grayish-white, speckled and mottled. Amidst this faint snowstorm, a cloaked figure rode on a sword light from afar, streaking across the night sky and landing on a low hill. When the figure landed, he first looked left and right, as if he didn't find anything. After a slight hesitation, he soared into the sky again. When he reached a height of more than 1,000 feet, he released his divine sense. After searching for a long time, he fell like a stone. When he landed on a hill, he stopped and took off his cloak, revealing a white-haired old man. This old man's eyebrows were sharp like swords, and his figure was like a bell. Standing on the hill, he looked more stable than the hill. The old man withdrew his divine sense and muttered to himself. Strange, isn't this the place we agreed to meet? Why hasn't sect leader come yet? Could it be that something happened? Then the old man sat down cross-legged and formed a sword seal. His body flashed with a faint sword brilliance and gradually became flat, like a long sword. After a full 2 hours, the night became even darker and the dream was covered by the fluttering snowflakes. The old man had already disappeared, leaving only an icicle standing on the hill. Whoosh! Also silently, from another direction, another ray of sword light rushed out of the darkness and inadvertently swept past the hill. However, it only flew out 1,000 feet. Ha! A voice came from the sword light. The sword light immediately stopped, and a handsome old man with white eyebrows that reached his temples appeared from the sword light. He wore a sword robe and wore a sword robe. The old man looked at the icicle in surprise. He wasn't in a hurry to land it, but instead released his divine sense to look around. He raised his hand and a sword hymn echoed. The old man cautiously stopped in the air, and began to guard the old man inside the icicle. The darkness finally faded away, and the light of dawn gradually appeared. When a ray of sunlight fell on the ice pillar, it was as gentle as a lover's. The ice pillar was completely filled with sword light, and it was competing with the sun's brilliance. When the ice fragments fell, a sword light rushed into the sky. It hovered for a moment before falling back down. Where the sword light landed, a flying sword flickered a few times. The old man from before stepped out from the sword light. Congratulations, Yinshu. Seeing this, the old man smiled, and his voice was like the hymn of a sword. You have already reached grade 3 of the illusory sword. If you cultivate for another 100 years, you will reach the sword transformation stage. Alas! The old man didn't have any special joy on his face. Instead, he opened his mouth and a ray of sword energy entered his stomach. He sighed and said, "Time is short and 100 years is too long. If I can reach the sword transformation stage today, then I will be able to help Sect Master. Hehe, it has only been 700 years, and you have already reached grade 3 of the illusory sword. If we compare cultivation, you should be at the late gold core stage. In the past, I wouldn't even dare to think about this. What are you not satisfied with?" Sect Master. Junior martial brother Fei's eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life. He looked at the old man with white eyebrows and said, "Disciple is already satisfied to be able to reach the sword transformation stage from Qi refinement stage. The rest of my cultivation is just to not disappoint Daoist Xiao, and for Sect Master's great plan." The old man with white eyebrows faintly smiled and said, "Who isn't? Of course, when Daoist Xiao entrusted this to me, you were also there. If it weren't for Daoist Xiao's advice, I wouldn't have been able to reach this point." Zai. Hearing this, the old man named Yunshu sighed, and looked up at the night sky. After half a cup of tea's time he said, "Not to mention you, even I never would have thought that this so-called fortune gate would develop into such a powerful force in our hands. This is all because of Daoist Zhao's protection," the old man with white eyebrows said indifferently with a gaze like a sword. "Only his reputation can gather thousands of ordinary disciples and form such a powerful force." "Yes, Sect Master." The old man with white hair smiled and said, "Do you still remember that day? The words you said to Daoist Xiao?" "Oh." The old man with white eyebrows raised and said thoughtfully, "Yunshu, which sentence are you talking about? That day, Daoist Xiao didn't forget to remind me." "That sentence." The old man with white eyebrows looked through the darkness and replied, "Daoist Xiao, don't worry. How can Tianqi compare to our fortune gate? Our fortune gate will definitely become the #1 sect on the Dawn Rain mainland." Hearing this, the white-browed old man became excited and loudly said, "Not only that. This Zhong still remembers that Daoist Master Xiao asked this Zhong at that time." The old man said, "This Xiao has done what he should do. The rest is up to you. I remember that there used to be a loose cultivator organization called Heaven's Forsaken. It was made up of loose cultivators at the early stage of Qi refinement and foundation establishment. This Xiao wants to see if you can build my fortune gate into a bigger sect than the Heaven Forsaken sect. In the blink of an eye, speaking of this today, this Zhong once again thought of that day when our dreams began. The moment when Taoist Xiao ignited our hopes. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and congratulations to the women's volleyball team for winning the championship, and also for the silent support of Benben. Chapter 5150. Sect Master. The white-haired old man had just called out when he was interrupted by the white-browed old man. He smiled and said, Yin Shu, call me Sect Master in front of others and call me Senior Brother Howren, or even Zhong Howren in private. Now that there are only the two of us, why are you so polite? The white-haired old man laughed. Haha, if that's the case, I'll call you Martial Uncle Zhong. That's how I addressed you in front of Taoist Xiao. Oh, forget it. Zhong Howren shrugged, as if he was disgusted, and said, Just pretend I didn't say anything. Do as you please. All right, Lord Sect Master. I admit that I was joking with you. Please don't take it to heart. Fei Yunshu smiled faintly and said, After all, we haven't seen each other for 15 years, right? If I remember correctly, it should be 16 years. Zhong Howren nodded. That year, for the expansion of our fortune gate, you went deep into the Huan country and built our fortune gate's foundation in the land of sword cultivators. It's been 16 years since we last met. Yes, 16 years. Fei Yunshu sighed as he looked at Zhong Howren's white brows. When I left, your brows were still white, but now they are as white as snow. You're even more elegant. You're the same Zhong Howren sighed. The Huan country's sword cultivators are harder to deal with than the Ming country's sword cultivators. You had a much harder time in the land of sword cultivators. Same to you. Fei Yunshu laughed. You built the fortune gate as a sword cultivator in the Ming country, and I built the fortune gate as a Dao cultivator in the Huan country. Both were not easy. Fei Yunshu's smile disappeared as he frowned. Oh right, Sect Master, I don't understand. Why did you suddenly issue the Sect Master's order, ordering all Fortune Gate's disciples to besiege the Sky Patrol City? What does Fairy Hongxia's engagement with the Yi family's young master have to do with our Fortune Gate? Ah? Zhong Howren was shocked and shouted. The Sect Master's order was issued by me. But wasn't the original Sect Master's order issued by you? What are you talking about? When did I issue the Sect Master's order? Fei Yunshu's expression turned cold as he hurriedly cried out. Although I received the Sect Master's Sect Master token, how could I issue such a ridiculous Sect Master token? At this point, Fei Yunshu suddenly realized something and cried out, Sect Leader, we seem to have fallen into someone's trap. Zhong Howren didn't answer right away. He closed his eyes and pinched the space between his brows instead, and he pondered for the time it took to finish a cup of tea before he said, It isn't just falling into the scheme of others. Others merely tossed a rock and caused a slight ripple. Yet I added fuel to the fire and pushed this matter to an unmanageable state. Sect Master. Fei Yunshu was puzzled. What's going on? It's very simple. Zhong Howren smiled bitterly. The earliest sect leader's order was not issued by me, but received by me. I thought it was you who issued the sect leader's order. At first, I wanted to send a disciple to blame you, but after careful consideration, I felt that your sect leader's order was very clever and the timing was very good. Thus, I sent a disciple to send a message praising you, saying that I was prepared to follow your wishes and distribute the sect leader's order in the Dawn Rain continent. But, Fei Yunshu hurriedly argued, Sect Master, this disciple has never received such a message from you. Naturally, you couldn't receive it. If you could, wouldn't today's situation be different? Zhong Howren smiled bitterly. Moreover, I also received your reply. Although you didn't say much, your tone implied that you agreed. Thus, I issued more sect leaders' orders. The problem is, Fei Yunshu was even more puzzled. He asked, Why did you feel that the sect leader's order was very clever? The timing was very good? Zhong Haoran suddenly seemed to have thought of something. He smiled slightly and replied, "Didn't the message make it clear? Fairy Hongxia is Daoist Zhao's lover. How can she be engaged to other cultivators?" Sect Master. Fei Yunshu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "When we established the Fortune Gate, we never mentioned Fairy Hongxia. Now that she is engaged, we have no reason to disturb her, right? Moreover, Daoist Xiao has never mentioned anything about Fairy Hongxia and Daoist Xiao. How can we force a marriage between Daoist Xiao and Fairy Hongxia?" Although we haven't seen the relationship between Fairy Hongxia and Daoist Xiao, I have heard some cultivators from the 3 countries talk about it. Zhong Haoran replied, "In the past, the Tai Ching sect of Meng country held a Feather Immortal Assembly. Both Daoist Xiao and Fairy Hongxia participated in it. During the Feather Immortal Assembly, Fairy Hongxia had a falling out with the Washing Flower sect's disciples because of Daoist Xiao. It would be strange if they didn't have feelings for each other. Moreover, after the Dao Sword battle, Daoist Xiao and Fairy Hongxia went out to train together. The 2 of them are a pair of lovers." Fei Yunshu still shook his head and said, "Even so, without Fairy Hongxia's acknowledgement, Sect Master's actions are too reckless. Daoist Xiao has been missing for almost 1,000 years. You have no reason to bring up the relationship between Fairy Hongxia and Daoist Xiao." Without waiting for Fei Yunshu to finish, Zhong Haoran waved his hand and said, "Whether Fairy Hongxia and Daoist Xiao's relationship is true or not, let's not talk about it for now. Let me ask you, how effective was the Fortune Gate you established among the sword cultivators of Huan country?" "Of course, it was excellent. Didn't this disciple say it clearly in the message I sent to Sect Master?" Fei Yunshu didn't understand, but he still answered honestly. "Daoist Zhao's benevolence has not only extended to our 3 countries, but also to the sword cultivators of Huan country. Without Daoist Zhao's good seed, more than half of Huan country's common people would have died long ago. Since the effect was good, what about the Fortune Gate now?" Zhong Haoran wasn't surprised by Fei Yunshu's answer, and asked again. "The Fortune Gate's development is too fast," Fei Yunshu said excitedly. "This disciple's strength is no longer enough to maintain a sect. In the east and north of Huan country, other small sword sects have started to appear, claiming to be the Fortune Gate's disciples. It seems like it won't be long before Huan country will be like the 3 countries, with a sword cultivator alliance. Do those small sword sects' sword masters listen to your orders?" Zhong Haoran asked indifferently. Fei Yunshu laughed and said, "How is that possible? Some sword sects' sword masters are grade 3 illusory sword masters. They think highly of themselves, so it's impossible for them to listen to a disciple's orders. Not to mention, when we established the Fortune Gate, we had already discussed it. None of us can be considered the Fortune Gate's master. Only Daoist Xiao is the Fortune Gate's master." At this point, Fei Yunshu looked at the smile on the corner of Zhong Haoran's mouth, and seemed to suddenly understand something. He stopped smiling and pondered for a moment before asking tentatively, "Sect Master, do you mean to say that this is the place where the fake Sect Master's command token is extremely opportune? I'm sure you've already felt it. Although our Fortune Gate was established late and has a weak foundation, it is because of Daoist Zhao's benevolence that he saved the lives of tens of millions of common people. Among these common people, there are many children with excellent aptitudes who have set foot on the path of cultivation. These children are grateful to Daoist Xiao for saving their lives, and are willing to become Fortune Gate's disciples. Although these disciples are scattered far and wide, a single spark can start a prairie fire. What Daoist Xiao did not dare to imagine in the past has now become a reality on Dawn Rain mainland." Zhong Haoran looked at the distant sun that was covered by dark clouds and explained, "The current Fortune Gate has become another cultivation force that cannot be ignored after the Heavenly Demon sect. Moreover, according to this Zhong's knowledge, our Fortune Gate's potential is limitless. In 1,000 years, our Fortune Gate will definitely become the world's #1 sect." "Yes, that's exactly the case." Fei Yunshu was excited just thinking about it, and hurriedly said, "Unfortunately, such a big sect is just a loose alliance without a clear leader, let alone a nominal alliance chief." Each sect fights for themselves, and has already become a fat piece of meat in the eyes of other cultivation sects and families. Zhong Haoran sighed and said, not to mention, our strength is too shallow and we can't use our strength to restrain other sects' disciples. We are happy that they use Daoist Zhao's banner to do righteous things, but what if they use Daoist Zhao's banner to do improper things? Wouldn't that sully Daoist Zhao's name? Even if these sects don't do it, what if other cultivation sects take advantage of them? That's true. Fei Yinshu nodded. When this disciple was in Huan country, there were many sword cultivators who tried to recruit disciples and made the Fortune Gate fall under their banner. Therefore, Zhong Haoran said word by word, we need an opportunity to gather all the Fortune Gate's disciples, sects that worship Daoist Zhao, and even cultivators from other sects that claim to be Daoist Zhao's disciples. We need to explain our Fortune Gate's mission to everyone. If possible, we can elect an alliance chief. That would be the best. Fei Yinshu smiled wryly and shook his head saying, Sect Master, your thoughts are quite reasonable. Presumably, even without that Sect Master token, you would have issued a similar Sect Master token sooner or later. However, have you investigated whether or not the news of Fairy Hongxia's engagement with the Yi clan in the fake sect leader token is true? Of course. Zhong Haoran nodded and said, when I received the Sect Master token, I had already sent a disciple to investigate. It seems like. Fei Yunshu's eyes flashed with understanding. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at Zhong Haoran and said, this Sect Master token is also for our Fortune Gate. However, Lord Sect Master doesn't need to use this kind of awkward opportunity, right? This disciple doesn't think this is the best choice. Zhong Haoran retracted his gaze and said indifferently, in the early years, this Zhong had tried to contact other sects, but they thought this Zhong had other plans and did not reply. Even if they did reply, they were only probing to see if this Zhong has the heart to rule. This Zhong had no choice but to explain everything one by one. But they never believed me. Over the years, this Zhong has also lobbied many sects, but they were all very cautious and did not mention this topic. Besieging the Sky Patrol City was also this Zhong's last resort. If this Zhong did not take action, I'm afraid we would never see a unified Fortune Gate again. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 51-51. That's true. Fei Yinshu nodded. We don't have much time left, and we won't be able to hold on for more than a few years under the changes in the world's spiritual energy. It's understandable for Sect Master to take such a risk. However, the Sky Patrol City is now under the control of sword cultivators. If we besiege the Sky Patrol City, I'm afraid that the sword cultivators will resent us. If we're not careful, we might even be exterminated. That being said, this is a great opportunity. This is all I can think of. The consequences may be dangerous, but I can't care about it anymore. Zhong Haoran said, remember when the Heavenly Demon Sect was first established? Didn't they besiege the Black Heaven Sect? Sect Master, times have changed. Fei Yunshu smiled bitterly. Back then, the Heavenly Demon Sect's strength increased greatly, and the Black Heaven Sect was caught off guard. The situation back then is completely different from today. That's why I called you all here to discuss this matter. After all, I thought you were the one who issued the Sect Master's token. Zhong Haoran said with a smile. Unfortunately, before Zhong Haoran could finish, Fei Yunshu frowned and cut him short. He said coldly, Sect Master, the Fortune Gate only has the two of us. It's meaningless for Martial Uncle to talk about other people. You should understand now that he must be the one who issued the Sect Master's token. As Fei Yunshu spoke, he raised his eyebrows and looked at the mountain peak in the distance. There was a faint flash of light at the top of the mountain, and a figure flew down from the morning glow. It was a mid-stage golden core cultivator, wearing a light blue robe. Fei Yunshu's expression changed when he saw this cultivator. Sword light surged around his body, and a soaring sword intent flew out uncontrollably. Yunshu, don't be anxious. Zhong Haoran hurriedly shouted. I invited Zhongzhan here. He issued the Sect Master's token for our own good. What's the point of inviting such a traitor? He used our names to issue the sect master's token and deceived all the fortune gate. Fei Yunshu's figure began to transform. His sword light was like frost, and layers of ice flowers flew towards the golden core cultivator. I've said it several hundred years ago. Whenever I see the three traitors, I'll unsheath my flying sword. That gold core old man was naturally Zhongzhan. He looked at the incoming sword intent and said coldly, "Who said I'm a traitor? In this Zhong's eyes, it is you who have become sword cultivators that are the true traitors." This Zhong inherited Daoist Zhao's cultivation and established the fortune gate. This Zhong is the true successor of Daoist Zhao. Fei Yunshu. Seeing Fei Yunshu's sword intent rushing towards Zhongzhan like a tide, and Zhongzhan waving his hands, sending thousands of ice shards towards Zhongzhan like blooming flowers, Zhong Haoran couldn't help but roar. If you still consider this Zhong as your martial uncle, then stop immediately. Boom. The sword light was like a tide. It suddenly shrank, and when it gathered again, it soared into the sky and cut off the scattered sunlight. Fei Yunshu's figure trembled as he appeared in the sword light. Although his face was still filled with anger, the sword light was reluctantly retracted. It turned into a stream of water that flowed around him. Zhongzhan held a magic treasure that looked like a small lock in his hand. Currently, the magic treasure was emitting a rainbow-colored light that was exceptionally dazzling under the sudden appearance of the sunlight. A condensed aura was emitted from the light. Obviously, Zhongzhan was also abnormally vigilant. Traitor! Fei Yunshu stopped, but when he glanced at Zhongzhan he still cursed. Oomph! Zhongzhan coldly snorted and retorted, "You're the traitor. You're already a sword cultivator. What qualifications do you have to break the orthodoxy of my cultivation?" Moreover, that day, Daoist Xiao divided his orthodoxy among the five of us. In other words, the five of us all inherited Daoist Xiao's orthodoxy. You boast that you're the orthodoxy, what a joke! Fei Yunshu angrily retorted, "If you consider yourself Daoist Zhao's orthodoxy, then why did you run away? Why didn't you establish the fortune gate with martial uncle Zhong?" Zhongzhan smiled faintly and said, "That day, Qinji and Zhongpei defected halfway. Martial uncle Zhong chased after them but failed. If they had fallen into someone else's hands, wouldn't our whereabouts have been exposed? Not to mention other things. Just the storage pouches on our bodies are the cause of our certain death. You didn't know how to hide and still walk together. I don't want to die with you." "If that's the case, then explain." Fei Yunshu scoffed at Zhongzhan's explanation and said coldly, "Why did you leave without saying goodbye?" "Explain?" Zhongzhan curled his lips and said, "That day, you and martial uncle Zhong were so excited that you wanted to find Feng Qingshui in Ming country. Would you listen to me?" "Zhongzhan." Zhong Haoran spoke, "Whether we listen or not is this old man's business, but whether you say it or not is your business. In this old man's opinion, this matter is your fault." "Martial uncle Zhong," Zhongzhan said indifferently, "this matter has happened for nearly 1,000 years. Whether it's right or wrong is no longer important. What's important is that the fortune gate in my hands is still a Dao cultivation gate, and the fortune gate in your hands is not a Dao cultivation gate. Who told you that my fortune gate only has sword cultivators?" Fei Yunshu retorted, "That's because you're ignorant. Not to mention Ming country's fortune gate has Dao cultivation techniques. Even Huan country's fortune gate also has Dao cultivation techniques. However, Dao cultivation techniques are too difficult to learn, and they are not as easy to learn as sword cultivation techniques. Hence, there are fewer disciples cultivating Dao cultivation techniques. Zhong Haoran sighed and raised his hand to signal the two of them to stop. He said, "This old man cannot agree with Zhongzhan's opinion. However, he has said something that this old man feels the same way. That is, the matter is already in the past, and right or wrong is no longer important. Whether it's right or wrong is not something we can judge now, so let's leave it to the younger generation to judge." Final conclusion. Zhongzhan's eyes narrowed slightly as he sighed with emotion. Fei Yunshu was speechless for a moment, then said, "Anyway, this Fei did not disappoint Daoist Zhao's trust. If that's the case, then the three of us did not disappoint you. Zhong Haoran took the opportunity to say, "We don't have long to live, and in this life, we've been fighting for one goal, so why can't we let bygones be bygones?" "No." Fei Yunshu still shook his head and said resolutely, "There is one goal, but the method is different. This Fei does not dare to agree. I have a clear conscience, and I have a clear conscience towards Daoist Xiao. So what if you don't agree?" Zhong Zhan retorted without any trace of politeness. "Forget it." Zhong Haoran hurriedly tried to smooth things over. "Today this Zhong invited all of you from Huan country and Lian country, not to bicker. Although all of you have different opinions, after all, you have obtained Daoist Zhao's true orthodoxy. If all of you do not support this Zhong might as well go to Chu Hong Sex Wang Jianqing or Cloud Pavilion Fort Su Zhonglin. Yes, Masters Junior Zhong." Seeing that Zhong Haoran was anxious, Fei Yunshu did not dare to say more, and hurriedly bowed and replied. Zhong Zhan also replied. What Masters Junior Zhong said to Fei Yunshu just now, this disciple heard it clearly. What this disciple wants to say is, this sect master's command was not issued by this disciple. This disciple only came after receiving the sect master's command. What? Zhong Haoran and Fei Yunshu felt a chill in their hearts. They looked at Zhong Zhan and asked in unison. That sect master's command was really not issued by you? It was not issued by me. Zhong Zhan flatly denied, but then he said, however, this disciple not only agrees with the message in the sect master's command, but this disciple also feels that just besieging the Sky Patrol City is not effective. Since we are going to do it, we should do it bigger. Wouldn't it be better to besiege the Sky Patrol City and drive away the sword cultivators there? Zhong Zhan. Fei Yunshu coldly asked. Do you know what it means to be greedy? How can our Fortune Gate's disciples compete with the Sky Patrol City's sword cultivators? Aren't you afraid that after taking down the Sky Patrol City, our Fortune Gate will become the target of public criticism? Dare I ask Sect Master Fei? Zhong Zhan glared at Fei Yunshu and asked, you have been in Huan country all this time. Do you know the sword cultivators' attitude towards the Sky Patrol City? Do you know which sword faction is in charge of the Sky Patrol City? How many sword cultivators are stationed in the Sky Patrol City? Fei Yunshu was stunned, but after thinking for a while he lowered his head like a defeated rooster and shook his head. I really don't know. Then do you know how many Fortune Gate's disciples there are in the 3 countries? Zhong Zhan was very proud and asked again. How many Fortune Gate's disciples are rushing to the Sky Patrol City? Fei Yunshu stiffened his neck and said coldly, I naturally don't know how many Fortune Gate's disciples there are in the 3 countries, but I know that there are more than 120,000 disciples in the Huan country. Counting the disciples from other sects, there should be more than 200,000. Clap clap. Zhong Zhan clapped his hands and laughed. That's right, Sect Master Fei has worked hard. You have only been in the Huan country for a little over 10 years, but you have already recruited more than 100,000 disciples. Fei Yunshu naturally knew that Zhong Zhan was mocking him. He glanced at Zhong Zhan and said, This has nothing to do with my hard work. It is all thanks to Daoist Zhao's grace. Zhong Haoran ignored the two's bickering. He frowned and looked at Zhong Zhan asking, Zhong Zhan, what do you mean by this? Martial Uncle Zhong. Zhong Zhan's expression turned serious and he bowed. After receiving your summons, I immediately felt the wonders of your dangerous move. After thinking for a while, I sent out a disciple to investigate. After combining the information I received earlier, I discovered that the Sky Patrol City is in a delicate situation under the covetous eyes of the sword cultivators of the Huan country. What do you mean? Zhong Haoran was stunned. He had not thought deeply about what Zhong Zhan said. Zhong Zhan smiled and said, Previously, when the Sky Patrol City was in the hands of the Dao cultivators, it was a choke point to stop the sword cultivators from going south. With the Sky Patrol City and the Sword Tomb, the sword cultivators were firmly blocked in the Huan country. After the Sword Dao War, the Sword Tomb disappeared and the Sky Patrol City fell into the hands of the sword cultivators. The sword cultivators could enter the 3 countries without any scruples. However, due to the obstruction of the Dao cultivators, the Sky Patrol City is still considered a strategic location. Anyone who occupies the Sky Patrol City can attack or retreat. Both the Dao cultivators and the sword cultivators want to control the Sky Patrol City. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 51-52. Zhongzhang continued. Previously, the Sky Patrol City was controlled by Xueyu Dao Master. The sword cultivators killed Xueyu Dao Master and captured Xueyu Dao Master, but they didn't appoint a sword sect or a sword master to control it. Of course, the Sky Patrol City is extremely important to the sword cultivators, and they wouldn't let a sword sect control it. Therefore, after the Great Sword War, the sword cultivators drew up a list according to the contribution of each sword sect. Every 100 years, 3 sword sects would jointly control the Sky Patrol City. In the first few 100 years, the sword sects of the Huan country followed the rules and guarded the Sky Patrol City according to the list. Those sword sects that weren't on the list wouldn't send disciples over. But in the past 300 years, this rule has begun to fall apart. Some powerful sword sects, such as the Void Heaven Sword School, often sent disciples to the Sky Patrol City. This was obviously not in line with the previous agreement, so the sword sects guarding the Sky Patrol City cleaned up these disciples. In the past 100 years, the Sword Sect, Flying Feather Sect, and Quilted Mountain Sect controlled the Sky Patrol City. Zhongzhang glanced at Fei Yunxiu and asked, "You must have heard of these 3 sword sects in the Huan country, right?" The Sword Sect is a second-rate sword sect in the Huan country. They contributed in the Great Sword War, but in the past 300 years, they have begun to decline. Fei Yunxiu naturally knew the situation of the Huan country's sword cultivators like the back of his hand. He seemed to understand something and answered. As for the Flying Feather Sect and Quilted Mountain Sect, they were originally weapon cultivators and beast cultivators. Normally, they wouldn't be noticed by the sword cultivators. In the Great Sword War, they were only united because they needed weapon cultivators and beast cultivators. Since that's the case, I think you should understand. Zhongzhang continued. The current Sky Patrol City is much weaker than it was in the past few 100 years. If the Fortune Gate besieges the Sky Patrol City, the other sword sects of the Huan country would be more than happy. Could it be? Fei Yunxiu hurriedly asked. The fake sect master token was issued by the other sword sects. It's possible. Once the Heavenly Patrol City is in danger, the other sword sects can rightfully take over the Heavenly Patrol City and change the order left behind by the previous Sword Dao War. Zhong Haoran understood and said calmly, "Our Fortune Gate has fulfilled the ambitions of the other sword sects. The problem is..." Fei Yunxiu shook his head and said, "Although the Three Swords faction that controls the Sky Patrol City is weak, their strength is still not something our Fortune Gate can compare to." As for the other sects that also worship Taoist Shao, not to mention the smaller ones, the bigger ones were the Mid-Golden Core Realm Cultivator Wang Jianqing's Chuhong sect, the Mid-Golden Core Realm Cultivator Su Zhonglin's Cloud Pavilion Fort, the Late Golden Core Realm Cultivator Xiaoming's Burning Crane Union, the Early Golden Core Realm Cultivator Su Chang's Fishing Island, the Early Golden Core Realm Zhuahong's Heavenly Competitive Pavilion, the Mid-Golden Core Realm Cultivator Cheng Jizi's Seeking Swallow Manor, the Mid-Golden Core Realm Wu Cheng's Intelligent Pavilion, and the Early Golden Core Realm Zhou Ji's Essence Wind Stronghold. The Chu Hong sect has 300,000 disciples, the Cloud Pavilion Fort has 200,000 disciples, the Burning Crane Union has 400,000 disciples, the Fishing Island has 180,000 disciples, the Heavenly Competitive Pavilion has 450,000 disciples, the Seeking Swallow Manor has 500,000 disciples, the Intelligent Pavilion has 320,000 disciples, and the Essence Wind Stronghold is the smallest with 170,000 disciples. These disciples add up to a total of 270,000. 2 million disciples. Even if the sect master's token is fake, can their trap capture 2 million disciples? How can there be so many disciples? Not to mention Fei Yunxiu. Even Zhong Haoran and the others were surprised when they heard this. This disciple was also shocked when he heard this. Zhongzhan laughed. But when I thought about it carefully, I suddenly understood. There are 2 reasons for this. First, our Fortune Gate's disciple selection is not as strict as other cultivation sections. We directly take in disciples based on their aptitude. Second, Taoist Jiao seeds are indeed immortal seeds. In the past 1,000 years, the children who have eaten these seeds have excellent aptitudes. Moreover, these children worship Taoist Xiao, and their cultivation speed is much faster than other cultivation sects' disciples. Therefore, the number of disciples has far exceeded our expectations. Although the Fortune Gate has a lot of disciples, compared to the cultivation sects, their strength is too weak. Zhong Haoran smiled bitterly. If we besiege the Sky Patrol City, I'm afraid the casualties will be heavy. Zhong Zhan didn't think much of it and calculated with his fingers. Not all of these 2,570,000 Fortune Gate disciples are here. If only 80% of them come, that would be 2 million. Marshal Uncle Zhong, think about it, 2 million disciples besieging the Sky Patrol City. Just this sea of disciples is enough to scare the Sky Patrol City's sword cultivators to death. Wang Jianqing and the others are cunning. Zhong Haoran shook his head and said, they definitely won't send out 80% of their disciples. If they send out 40% of their disciples, it's already good enough. Zhong Zhan smiled faintly. If Marshal Uncle Zhong says so, then you really underestimate Wang Jianqing. Even this disciple understands the meaning of Marshal Uncle Zhong's summoning order. How could they not know that Marshal Uncle Zhong has an ulterior motive? Since they know that this is an opportunity to test each Fortune Gate's strength, forming an alliance and electing an alliance chief, why wouldn't they bring out their strongest forces? This disciple even thinks that 2 million disciples is a small number. Fei Yunshu waved his hand and said, impossible. How big can the Sky Patrol City be? How big can 2 million disciples be? Thinking back to the Sword Dao Great War in the past, the Sword Dao Great War disciples and Dao Great War disciples were less than 2 million, right? You can't compare it like that. Zhong Zhan replied. Those who participated in the Sword Dao Great War were all elites. Those who participated in the siege of the Sky Patrol City were mostly low-level disciples. They don't count. That's right, since we know that the low-level disciples are not strong enough. It's useless no matter how many of them there are. We also know that this is a trap. Since Fairy Hongxia and the Yi family's young lord are engaged in the Sky Patrol City, we can't enter the city to stop them. We can only surround them from outside. Zhong Haoran said worriedly, since it's a siege, we will have to fight with the Sky Patrol City. There's even a possibility that we will be attacked from both sides. Our Fortune Gate's low-level disciples will suffer heavy casualties, so why should we go? Didn't Marshal Uncle Zhong say so? Stopping Fairy Hongxia and the Yi family's young lord from getting engaged is just a pretense. Zhong Zhan smiled and said, this siege of the Sky Patrol City is to clean up the Fortune Gate. It would be best if we can attack the Sky Patrol City. It would greatly boost our Fortune Gate's morale. If the battle is disadvantageous to our Fortune Gate, Marshal Uncle Zhong can give the order to retreat, and we will go to other places to discuss the alliance. If we don't use this opportunity to find the culprit who issued the fake Gate Master's token, when will we find him? In short, no matter how the battle goes, our Fortune Gate will be the winner, and we will achieve Marshal Uncle's goal. Since we're going to fight, how can we retreat so easily? Zhong Haoran was still worried. Once the battle starts, there will be heavy casualties, especially if it's a pincer attack. That's even more right, Zhong Zhan said coldly. Since they are our Fortune Gate's disciples, they should belong to the three of us. They established another sect to compete with us. It's obvious that they are looking down on our orthodoxy. Looking down on us is the same as looking down on Taoist Zhao's orthodoxy. It's necessary to use the battle to teach them a lesson, and let them know who is Taoist Zhao's orthodoxy. Victory has always been bought with blood. Without the accumulation of lives, it's impossible to know how precious it is. If that's the case, Zhong Haoran was tempted. He closed his eyes and did not speak. After a while he opened his eyes, looked at the two of them, and nodded. What we need to discuss today is different from what I thought before. We need to advance and retreat together, and lead the other Fortune Gate's disciples to besiege the Sky Patrol City. We also need to guard against the Oriole behind us. This is very troublesome. We need to discuss seriously, and if necessary, we need to inform the other sects. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a tip, and Chapter 51-53. Not to mention Zhong Haoran, Fei Yunshu, and Zhong Zhan discussing how to besiege the Sky Patrol City, or Fairy Xianhua, and the other Fortune Gate disciples coordinating with the Fortune Gate disciples to clean up the mess outside. Xiaohua was leading several 100,000 Lightning Valley disciples back to the Myriad Lightning Valley. Although Xiaohua had no sense of direction, and could get lost even in the Imperial Lightning Sect, at this time he didn't need to distinguish between directions, nor did he need to release his divine sense. In the blink of an eye, the Myriad Lightning Valley was right in front of them. Everyone already knew that Xiaohua's magic power was boundless, so they weren't particularly surprised. However, no one made a sound as they quietly looked at the mountain-like figure in front of them, feeling a deep sense of attachment. It was as if the withered autumn aura on the mountain had dyed the mountain stream and spread in all directions. Xiaohua's eyes were filled with a deep attachment. He looked at the Myriad Thunder Valley that seemed familiar, but was in fact unfamiliar. Memories mixed with helplessness inevitably rushed into his mind. Rather than saying that the Myriad Lightning Valley was a place that haunted Xiaohua's dreams, it was more appropriate to say that it was a place where his thoughts were entangled. The happiness of growing up, the bitterness of maturity, the worry of worry, and the unforgettable guilt were the true meaning of the Myriad Lightning Valley. It had been 1,000 years, and the Myriad Thunder Valley was no longer the Myriad Thunder Valley of the past. Not to mention the rumbling of thunder, not to mention the fact that the white ape that guarded the mountain had died long ago, not to mention the fact that the voice of exasperation for failing to meet expectations would never appear again. Due to the increase in disciples in the Myriad Lightning Valley, there were a lot of cultivation caves within several hundred li, and spiritual plants were beginning to grow all over the mountains and plains. This was enough to make Xiaohua feel lost. The Myriad Lightning Valley is no longer. As if the higher one's expectations were, the greater the disappointment. Xiaohua looked to the left and quietly released his divine sense. The dense sense of loss turned into a withered autumn aura that shrouded the area, and a kind of unavoidable sadness filled the world. Zhuowu and the others had tears in their eyes as they felt the loss in Xiaohua's heart, and they felt a little guilty. However, the changes in the Myriad Lightning Valley happened little by little, and they were familiar with it, so how could they see it? Only a disciple like Xiaohua, who hadn't returned for 1,000 years, could recall the past from his memories, right? However, when this sadness fell into Wu Qing's heart, his body shook violently. Disbelief and surprise appeared in his eyes, and he fell to the ground in midair, ignoring everyone else. He actually began to meditate. When Xiang Zhili and Cui Yingying saw this, they were very puzzled. However, they were all people with great fortune. Without any hesitation, they hurriedly sat down. In just a few breaths, they understood. Wu Qing's foundation had been injured by Bai Fei, and his cultivation had regressed. Although Xiaohua had given Wu Qing a medicinal pill to stop his injuries, Wu Qing's nascent soul was still in a heavily injured state. Wasn't Wu Qing's state of mind in sorrow? A state of near death? Lightning was the end of death and the beginning of life. If a cultivator couldn't comprehend life and death, then it would be impossible for them to reach grand completion. Although Wu Qing's situation here was not considered a life and death calamity, he might not be able to comprehend it so deeply. However, Xiaohua's change in the weather just happened to match Wu Qing's state of mind. It was a good opportunity for Wu Qing's cultivation to advance greatly. Wu Qing, Xiang Zhili, and Cui Yingying had always been cultivating together. Wu Qing was touched, and Xiang Zhili and Cui Yingying came to their senses. They also activated their cultivation techniques. Perhaps they did not obtain as much as Wu Qing, but this was a rare opportunity. Wu Qing and the other two sat down cross-legged to comprehend. The other people in the Myriad Thunder Valley did not feel anything special. In fact, they did not even notice it because they had already seen the desolation of the Myriad Thunder Valley in their eyes, just like the memories in their hearts. Oh, this is this Zhao's cave. Xiao Hua's divine sense finally reached a familiar place. However, he saw that there were not many changes in the cave's surroundings. The inside of the cave was exactly the same as before. Presumably, Xiang Yang and the others had deliberately done this. At the same time, Xiang Zhili's slightly immature voice sounded in his ears. You can rest assured, foster father. The Myriad Thunder Valley is your home. And this cave is even more so yours. Boy has already taken good care of this cave, and is waiting for your return. Boom boom boom. Waves of thunder suddenly appeared in the sky above the Myriad Thunder Valley. This thunder was 100 times more ferocious than the thunder that appeared before Xiao Hua. An indescribable confinement of heaven and earth descended from the sky, instantly enveloping everyone. Huh? Xiao Hua smiled faintly. The autumn and austere aura were swept away. He said, without the annihilation of the past, how can the present exist? Without the present, how can there be a germination of tomorrow? Everything will turn into memories, and everything will change. All living things will be replaced, and life will not be extinguished. Nothing more than this. Admittedly, the Myriad Thunder Valley is no more, but the Myriad Thunder Valley is still the Myriad Thunder Valley. In this Xiao's heart, the Myriad Thunder Valley. After he finished speaking, Xiao Hua's figure slightly swayed. He seemed to be in front of everyone's eyes, but also seemed to be millions of miles away. Xiao Hua raised his hand, and the signs of the thunder tribulation high above the sky disappeared once again. When Xiao Hua's figure once again solidified, an indescribable emptiness was emitted from his body. Xiao Hua clearly understood that his karma in the Dawn Rain continent had been resolved once again. The distance to his ascension was even closer. Xiao Hua's change was naturally something that the late Gold Core stage Zhuozhu couldn't comprehend. Seeing this, Zhuozhu was greatly alarmed in his heart, and he hastily said, Xiao Hua, what happened to you? Haha. Xiao Hua smiled faintly and said, it's nothing, master's wife. Disciple hasn't returned for nearly 1,000 years. And upon seeing the Myriad Thunder Valley for the first time, my heart was excited, that's all. Cui Hongshan's mind was more agile than Xiang Yang's, and he immediately understood something. He hastily said, Second senior martial brother, in the past 1,000 years, my Myriad Thunder Valley has gained a lot of disciples. They also want to build their own Immortals Caves in the Myriad Thunder Valley, so the Myriad Thunder Valley has changed a lot. However, senior martial brother, don't worry. Your Immortals Cave has Liu Yingying and Wuqing taking care of it. There hasn't been any changes. Xiao Hua smiled at Cui Hongshan and said, I already know. Thank you. Subsequently, he looked at Wuqing and the other two, and said, Zhen Quan, Wuqing and the others are cultivating in seclusion. You take a few disciples and guard here. Don't disturb them. Whether or not they can cultivate to Unity stage will depend on today's comprehension. Unity stage. Everyone was greatly alarmed and hastily shut their mouths. Their figures simultaneously flew several meters away, for fear of disturbing the three people. Little junior martial brother, I'll stay here. Xiang Yang said worriedly. In fact, with Xiao Hua here, how could there be anyone in this world who could affect the three people's cultivation? Xiao Hua let Jinyu stay here to watch. He originally wanted everyone to feel at ease, but he still underestimated the affection in everyone's hearts. Thus Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, Since that's the case, eldest senior martial brother will. At this point, Xiao Hua's heart moved and he said with a smile, Since that's the case, master's wife, eldest senior martial brother, senior martial sister, junior martial brother Cui, junior martial sister, you all follow me. While speaking, everyone felt the scenery in front of them change again. They actually landed near the thunder peak of Myriad Thunder Valley. Xiang Yang didn't know why Xiao Hua did this. He hastily looked at Wuqing and the others, but he felt that Wuqing and the others were sitting cross-legged around Xiao Hua. Without waiting for Xiang Yang to withdraw his gaze, Xiao Hua's voice sounded. Disciple Xiao Hua announces to the heavens that disciple was helpless in Myriad Thunder Valley. Eldest senior martial brother Xiang Yang imparted a cultivation method to me, and received his kindness. Today, disciple will give a lecture in Myriad Thunder Valley to repay the friendship between master and disciple, the friendship between brothers, and the kindness of Imperial Thunder Sect. Xiaohua's voice didn't sound loud, but in an instant it enveloped the entire Leima mountain range. Fairy Xianhua, who was ordering the disciples to clean up the mess and return to Lightning Radiance Peak to check the storage pouches and discuss how to distribute the cultivation methods and secret techniques, shuddered and hurriedly shouted, "Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples, listen to my sect master's order. Reverend Xiao will give a lecture. Stop everything and listen immediately. Don't miss such a peerless immortal opportunity." Then, Fairy Xianhua looked around and teleported to the left side of the guest pavilion, where she sat cross-legged on a mountain rock with her palms facing the sky. Her face was filled with respect and piety. Reverend Lei Meng had already known that the storage pouch Xiaohua gave to Fairy Xianhua contained the great opportunity of Imperial Thunder Sect, so he had long thought about it. Now seeing Fairy Xianhua so cautious and hearing Xiaohua's thunderous voice resounding in the Leima mountain range, how could they not know that Fairy Xianhua's words were true? They hurriedly found a place to sit cross-legged and calmly listened. In just half a cup of tea's time, all the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples sat down and faced the sky to listen to Xiaohua's lecture. Xiaohua's voice was like a gurgling stream, like a sweet rain descending to the world. Every word fell into the ears of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples and seeped into their hearts. Fist-sized lightning flowers were born in the sky, splashed down from the lightning array, and gushed out from the ground. In less than an hour, they filled the heavens and the earth. Wisps of pious faith fell into the lightning flowers, through the void, and into Xiaohua's crystal-like godhead. 3 days and 3 nights. It was neither long nor short, but it was enough for a person to be reborn, and also enough to affect the cultivation of thousands of cultivators. When Xiaohua finished his last word, the heavens and the earth fell silent. The lightning flowers in the morning sun were like morning dew, falling from the sky, into the ground, into the mountain rocks, and into the bodies of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples who were cultivating in seclusion. On the left side of the pavilion, the nascent soul cultivators who had been sitting quietly a moment ago were now surrounded by strange lights and thunderous colors. Layers upon layers of energy waves that covered different areas enveloped the area. The drifting thunderbolts fell into the energy waves and seeped into their bodies. When the lightning flowers entered their bodies, the eyes of these nascent soul cultivators were filled with shock and ecstasy, and they hurriedly opened their eyes. Unfortunately, an opportunity was an opportunity, and a missed opportunity was a missed opportunity. The lightning flowers that filled the heavens and the earth before had already disappeared into the vast earth and the undulating mountain range. Everyone flew out impatiently. Fairy Xianhua suppressed her joy and asked in a low voice, "Junior brother Lei Meng Yu, how do you feel?" Lei Meng Daoist suppressed his wildly beating heart and replied in a low voice, "I's rock-solid bottleneck has finally loosened. If possible, I will be able to step into the late nascent soul stage before the end of my lifespan." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and Chapter 51-54. Ying. Xiaohua hurriedly sent her a voice transmission. Happiness is something you pursue yourself. Other people's obstacles and matchmaking can't compare to two people's sincere love. If you have heartlessness in your heart, you should seize any opportunity. If you miss a chance, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Cui Ying felt as if she was struck by lightning when she heard this. Her lifeless eyes turned slightly, and a trace of joy appeared in them. Ignoring Qiming's push, she floated up and knelt in the air, kowtowing. Disciple Cui Ying asks for seniors' pity and guidance on disciples' cultivation path. Not bad. Lightning Taoist knew that Cui Ying was shy, so he didn't dare to make any jokes. He lowered his head to look at Cui Ying, and his eyes glimmered as he laughed. "It seems like you were born from the lightning pill. Your talent is heavenly. Forget it, since I want to take you in. This old man will also take you in." Xiang Zhili was envious, and he hurriedly flew in front of Lightning Taoist, shouting, "Senior, this junior also." Scram. Lightning Taoist didn't know whether to laugh or cry seeing Xiang Zhili's appearance, and he scolded, "You are fellow Taoist Zhao's foster son. What reason do you have to take this old man as your master?" This old man won't let you take advantage of me. Xiang Zhili was kicked in front of Xiaohua by Lightning Daoist. He pulled on Xiaohua's robe with a long face and said, "Foster father ah, you must uphold justice for this boy ah. All of them have taken me as their master, only this boy has no one to guide him. Don't you think this boy is pitiful?" "Not pitiful at all," Xiaohua laughed. "You don't care about foster father anymore, and you want to hug Lightning Daoist's thigh, but he doesn't care about you, so why are you crying to foster father? Foster father, you are the Fortune Gate's gate master and Lightning Daoist is the Fortune Gate's second master." Xiang Zhili said pitifully, "Aren't your Fortune Gate's members a family? Why do you care about this?" Scram. Xiaohua glared at Xiang Zhili and kicked him back to Zhuozhu's side, scolding, "It's our Fortune Gate. You are a disciple of the Lightning Imperial sect. Our Fortune Gate has nothing to do with you." "Boy is going to cry himself to death," Xiang Zhili said to Zhuomu with a long face. "Grandmaster, let me borrow your shoulder." Even though Zhuohangwu was overjoyed, seeing that the Lightning Daoist had also accepted Cui Yingying as his disciple, how could she not know that something was amiss? She couldn't help but feel a little displeased. Looking at Xiang Zhili's reaction, she couldn't help but think of the three of them when they were young. She sighed and raised her hand to touch Xiang Zhili's forehead affectionately. "Your foster father is from the Fortune Gate, so naturally, you're also from the Fortune Gate. Wait for the two of them to get up." On the other side, the Thunderbolt Immortal helped Wuqing and Cui Yingying up. With a wave of his hand, a barrier was formed. Then he took out 2 small bottles from his bosom and handed them to the two. "These are 2 unique treasures. There is a universe inside. Now I'm giving them to the 2 of you. Figure out how to use them yourselves. Remember that." Wuqing and Cui Yingying were alarmed and hurriedly kept the bottles carefully. Only then did the Thunderbolt Immortal remove the barrier. He said to Xiaohua, "Fellow Daoist, I still have important things to do. I'll leave the matter of guiding the 2 of them to you." "Sure." Xiaohua nodded. He shook the Kunlun mirror and put the Thunderbolt Immortal away. Seeing that everyone was confused, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Master's wife, let's talk about it after we return to the cave." The cave that Xiaohua was talking about was naturally the cave that Helpless and Zhuohangwu lived in. Everyone descended. Zhen Quan and the other disciples respectfully stood outside the cave. Zhuohangwu led Xiaohua into the cave. Helpless cave didn't have any special changes. It was similar to when Xiaohua was expelled. Xiaohua saw the 2 jade chairs at the head. Although the chairs were empty, Xiaohua felt like he was seeing Helpless sitting on them. Xiaohua couldn't help but feel jealous. He took a few steps forward and knelt on the ground again. He kowtowed and said, "Master, this unfilial disciple has returned. Disciple thanks you for saving my life." Zhuohangwu was greatly surprised. After Xiaohua kowtowed, he helped Xiaohua up and said, "Xiaohua, quickly get up. Although your master didn't get the face that he wanted when he was alive, the face that you gave him now is far beyond what he expected. Even if he's in the underworld, he's already smiling. Master has already passed away. No matter how much this disciple does, he won't be able to see it." Xiaohua got up and respectfully helped Zhuohangwu to his seat. He said, "This disciple would rather master be alive and see his happy smile." After Zhuohangwu sat down, Xiaohua respectfully invited Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian to sit down. Only then did he want to take action against Xiang Yang. Cui Hongshan hurriedly stopped him. He smiled and pointed at his seat at the head. "Senior Marshal Brother Xiao, after you left, this seat and the seat that Master was sitting on were both empty. What you're sitting on now is the seat that little brother is sitting on. You must not snatch little brother's seat." Xiaohua looked and smiled. The seat that he was sitting on now was the seat that he sat on when he was angry with Cui Hongshan. He didn't say anything and sat on the right side of Zhuohangwu. Soon after, Cui Hongshan and Dui Qiming also sat down. Wuqing, Xiang Zhili, and Cui Yingying each stood beside their mothers. Alas! Zhuohangwu looked at the immortal's cave and looked at the chair beside her. She didn't know why, but not only was there no joy in her heart, an indescribable sadness welled up in her heart. She turned to look at Xiaohua and said, I'm afraid that today is the most complete day of my myriad Thunder Valley's disciples. From now on, it won't be so complete anymore. Master's wife is wrong, Xiaohua said with a smile. If you look forward, this is naturally the most complete day. But what if you look back? I'm afraid that today will be the day with the least disciples, right? Master's wife. Xiangyang said. Junior martial brother is right. Today is so lively, there's no harm in letting the disciples in. Right, right. Zhuanggu smiled and said. Seeing you all sad, I forgot about Jin Quan and the others. Now they are the backbone of my thunderclap palace. Quickly let them in. Dui Qiming hurriedly got up and said, Master's wife, disciple is going back to the immortal's cave to get some spiritual wine and spiritual fruits. Yan Qinglian opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but she closed it awkwardly. Her body only yawned, but she didn't get up. Xiaohua saw that the immortal's cave was shabby and looked similar to before. How could he not know about Myriad Thunder Valley's predicament? He smiled and said, Junior martial sister, there's no need to be busy. When I returned from the other side, I obtained many spiritual fruits from the demon realm. Today I'll take them out for everyone to taste. Hee, alright, I'll go tidy up the jade table and other things. Dui Qiming smiled and got up, bringing Cui Yingying out. Xiaohua smiled and said, Junior martial sister, leave Yingying behind. I have something to say to her. Okay. Dui Qiming was overjoyed. She nudged Cui Yingying, hinting her to be smart, and quickly left. Yan Qinglian gave Xiangyang a look, and also got up to leave. Taking advantage of the two people leaving, Xiaohua took out 3 storage pouches from his space, and handed them to Xiangyang, Cui Hongshan and Wuqing. He said, From now on, the Imperial Lightning Sect will not make things difficult for my Myriad Thunder Valley. Moreover, my Fortune Gate will protect the Myriad Thunder Valley, and the Myriad Thunder Valley's disciples' cultivation won't be a problem. However, it's more convenient to have some spirit stones and spirit pills. Although I've returned, I don't have much time to take care of everyone. You should accept these things. Yes, Xiangyang and Cui Hongshan had suffered a lot due to not having enough spirit stones. Seeing Xiaohua hand over the storage pouches, they accepted them without hesitation. Wuqing also didn't look at them and passed them to Zhuanggu. Zhuanggu's heart ached for Xiaohua. She opened the storage pouches while saying, Xiaohua, you also? Ah? Why are there so many? Hearing Zhuanggu's exclamation, Xiangyang and Cui Hongshan came to their senses and hurriedly took out their storage pouches. But before they could do so, Xiaohua laughed and said, Eldest senior brother, junior brother Cui, don't look at them. Those are just a little bit of this Zhao's appreciation. These things are really nothing compared to our brotherhood. Xiaohua then stood up and respectfully said to Zhuanggu, Master's wife, Master's kindness to me is as heavy as a mountain. He even sacrificed himself to save this disciple. What do these spirit stones count for? Even 10 times or 100 times more wouldn't be enough to express this disciple's feelings. There is also a Fortune Gate token inside this storage pouch. Seeing this token is equivalent to seeing this disciple. You can refine it now. No matter what you want to do, as long as you show this token to the Fortune Gate's disciples, your wish will be fulfilled on the Dawn Rain mainland. Xiaohua's words were not without exaggeration, but Zhuanggu liked to hear it. She grinned from ear to ear as she replied, What wish could this old woman have? Ah, I just want Wuqing to cultivate well, and have a bright future like you. Ha! Xiaohua laughed loudly. Master's wife, you don't need to worry about this. There's no need to use this token. Your wish will definitely be fulfilled in the future. Mid-nascent soul cultivators with a lifespan of several hundred years can be counted on one hand in the entire Dawn Rain mainland. Ah! This old woman knows, this old woman knows. Speaking of her son, Zhuanggu was completely overjoyed. She nodded repeatedly and said, This is all thanks to you. Otherwise, how could there be Wuqing in this world? This old woman will entrust his future to you. Master's wife, rest assured. Xiaohua nodded. Wuqing is this disciple's junior brother. How could this disciple not take care of him? While speaking, Xiaohua took out 3 more storage pouches and handed them to Wuqing, Xiangjili, and Cui Yingying respectively. He smiled and said, Just now when this old man was explaining, this old man had already checked your cultivation. It's really not bad. It seems that under this old man's guidance, you all will have other opportunities. There are some cultivation methods and spirit pills inside that you all can use. Thank you, senior brother. Wuxia expressionlessly received the storage pouch without checking it. Haha, thank you, foster father. Xiang Zhili snatched the storage pouch and opened it to take a look. Cui Yingying was the most shy. She walked over and carefully took the storage pouch without looking at it carefully. She glanced at Wuxia and held it in her hand. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it, vote a monthly vote a recommendation vote, collect a collection reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 51-55. Lier. Xiaohua transmitted. There are 2 small bottles in the storage bag. One of them is real, and the other is something I refined based on the real bottle. This small bottle was originally obtained by Bai Fei, and there's a big secret inside. It's the foundation of his cultivation from foundation establishment to nascent soul. Bai Fei injured Wuxia, so I originally wanted to give this to Wuxia. However, he has a strong personality. If he knew that this item belonged to Bai Fei, he would definitely not want it. He might even return it to Bai Fei. Therefore, I'm giving this item to you. I don't know if you're fated to control this item, but you're my adopted son. I'm still willing to give you some opportunities. Ah? Hearing this, Xiang Zhili's eyes turned rapidly, and he hurriedly transmitted. Boy, can you let Wuxia and Yingying use this item? This item might be heaven-defying. It's a rare opportunity in the world. You can't tell anyone about it. Xiaohua solemnly said to Xiang Zhili. Just now when Thunderbolt Immortal was taking in disciples, I also gave Thunderbolt Immortal 2 fake bottles. I gave them to Wuxia and Yingying respectively. I also warned them not to tell anyone. With your cultivation, you can't tell the difference between the fake and the real thing. However, in the end you'll definitely be exposed. I don't know if Bai Fei can live until the day he finds out the truth. However, I know that with Bai Fei's strength he doesn't know what the real thing looks like. Moreover, Wuxia and Bai Fei might fight. Bai Fei is too shrewd. I'm afraid that Wuxia will be at a disadvantage. This item is in your hands. You have to cultivate diligently and take good care of Wuxia and Yingying. Xiang Zhili was rarely serious. His expression turned cold, and he transmitted, Don't worry, adoptive father. Boy will definitely remember adoptive father's words. However, it was only a moment before Xiang Zhili's expression became lazy again. He smiled bitterly. Adoptive father, how do I refine this item? There doesn't seem to be any refining method. You gave such an important task to boy. How can you succeed without giving him the refining method? This item doesn't need refining. Xiaohua smiled. If it needs refining, how can I take it away from Bai Fei so easily? Alright, the boy understands. Xiang Zhili agreed and looked outside the cave. Dui Qiming and Yan Qinglian led a group of junior disciples in happily. After a short while the jade table and jade table were already set up. There were some spirit wine and spirit fruits on it, but it looked shabby no matter how one looked at it. Cui Hongshan laughed and said, Senior brother Xiao, try the spirit wine and spirit fruits of the myriad Thunder Valley first. Alright. Xiaohua also didn't say that he didn't want to drink spiritual wine. After drinking a cup of spiritual wine and eating a spiritual fruit, he said with a smile, It seems that the days in my myriad Thunder Valley aren't easy. That's right, martial uncle. Zhen Quan knew Xiaohua's temperament and immediately said, It wasn't just bad, I was almost killed by the sect leader. Oh, there's such a thing? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, Fairy Xianhua is really amazing. Sai, as the sect leader, I naturally have my own ideas. There's no need to talk about this anymore. Zhuahangi sighed. It's all in the past. Xiaohua, why don't you talk about your master? And this disciple knows. Xiaohua had previously mentioned the favor of saving his life, so he knew that everyone wanted to know the truth. As he spoke, he waved his hand and sent the rich spirit fruits and spirit wine in front of everyone. He picked up an immortal peach and respectfully handed it to Zhuahangi. Senior, please try this immortal peach first. After this disciple asks master's wife about a matter, this disciple will slowly tell you. You're talking about this jade slip. Without waiting for Xiaohua to finish speaking, Zhuo Hongyi took out an old jade slip from her bosom and looked at it very carefully. She handed it to Xiaohua and said, "This is what your master left for this old woman before he left." The jade slip said that other than this old woman, no one else can look at this jade slip. Since you're back, take a look first. Xiaohua didn't take the jade slip but stubbornly handed over the immortal peach and said, "Master's wife, please eat the immortal peach first." "All right." Zhuo Hongyi nodded. She took the immortal peach and handed the jade slip to Xiaohua. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent and respectfully received it with both hands. However, he didn't immediately look at it. Instead, he waited for Zhuo Hongyi to finish eating the immortal peach and asked, "Master's wife, how did Master and Shui leave the Imperial Thunder Sect that year?" Zhuo Hongyi was shocked and cried out, "You already know that Shui. Oh, this old woman understands. Your master's guess in the jade slip was actually true." Ever since Xiaohua returned to the Imperial Thunder Sect and cleaned up the mess with thunderous methods, Zhuo Hongyi didn't have time to talk to Xiaohua. Naturally, she also didn't have the opportunity to tell Xiaohua about Helplessness's death. However, Xiaohua also didn't ask much, as if he already knew about Helplessness's death. This made Zhuo Hongyi a bit bewildered. Of course, Zhuo Hongyi also thought that Xiaohua would inquire about helplessness from others. Zhuo Hongyi didn't believe it. Helplessness was originally an unknown Jindan disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Now that nearly 1,000 years had passed, apart from the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley, and the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect who were relatively close to them, even in the Imperial Thunder Sect, how many disciples knew the name Helplessness? However, just now, when Xiaohua stepped into the Immortal's cave and immediately knelt down to thank Helplessness for saving his life, Zhuo Hongyi suddenly thought of Helplessness's jade slip. Therefore, even though Helplessness said that he absolutely couldn't let anyone else see the jade slip, Zhuo Hongyi still gave it to Xiaohua. He believed that the anyone Helplessness mentioned definitely didn't include Xiaohua. It was also only now that Zhuo Hongyi completely understood that Helplessness's words in the jade slip were actually true. The mystery that had puzzled him for 1,000 years was finally about to be solved. Little junior brother. Xiang Yang was worried that Zhuo Hongyi would be heartbroken and hurriedly said, "Brother also knows about this now. Listen to brother's explanation." "All right." Xiaohua deeply nodded. Xiang Yang then narrated everything that happened after Helplessness came out of seclusion. Finally, he said, after Master discussed with Shui, he immediately took Shui and left. He only left behind a jade slip and a single sentence. Master's wife kept the jade slip, but those words were engraved in the hearts of brother and the others. Your master told them that he had an urgent matter to attend to and had to leave for a few days. He entrusted the Myriad Thunder Valley to me first. When he returns, he must revitalize the Myriad Thunder Valley and make it the center of attention of all. Zhuo Hongyi continued, sighing with emotion. He left and never returned. But 1,000 years later, you returned. The Myriad Thunder Valley has already become the center of attention of all. His dream has been realized in your hands. Xiaohua, you don't need to think too much. He is your master, so he should pay the price for you. The sentence, "he is your master, so he should pay the price for you," made Xiaohua's nose sour again. He sniffed and said, "Master's wife, wait for me to look at the jade slip. I will tell you in detail how Master saved me." Alas, I really don't dare to believe it. Zhuo Hongyi sighed again and said, "He is only a gold core cultivator. Even Reverend Lei Meng couldn't find you. How did they save you?" Xiaohua probed the jade slip with his divine sense, but saw that the jade slip contained the last words left behind helplessly more than 600 years ago. "Master's wife, just now Shui came over and told me a very unimaginable matter. It was about Xiaohua. Shui's words were vague. I didn't dare to believe it. However, her expression didn't seem to be fake. Although I was doubtful for Xiaohua, I was willing to choose to believe her. I promised to leave the Imperial Thunder Sect with her." However, when I asked where we were going, she resolutely refused to say. Moreover, she said that if this matter was known by others, Xiaohua's life would definitely be in danger. When I hesitated for a moment, she immediately knelt down and begged. She even took out a magic tool, saying that if I didn't go, she would immediately commit suicide in the quiet room. You also know that I owe Xiaohua too much. For Xiaohua, I am willing to put my life on the line. Therefore, no matter what Shueshue has in mind, I will go with her. Because it was too hurried, I didn't have time to tell you in detail. I also couldn't let others hear it, so I left this jade slip. Of course, you must remember that this jade slip can only be seen by you. No one else can see it. Because this is related to Xiaohua's life. His plain words did not contain any heroic words. His sincere feelings did not need to move the heavens and the earth. One was a pink jade slip, the other was a yellow jade slip. One was a direct confession to Xiaohua. The other was a warning to Zhuohongyi. 2 jade slips, 2 methods. Both were Shueshue's and Helplessness's deep love for Xiaohua. Xiaohua's tears flowed down unwillingly. It was as if he had returned to the Dawn Rain continent. His heart became increasingly soft. Any familiar matter could make him feel sentimental. Seeing Xiaohua sad, the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley didn't dare to move. They all stood there quietly, feeling the cold frost in the cave. After a full incense stick's worth of time, Xiaohua calmed down and said respectfully, "Master's wife, what Master said in the jade slip was correct. That day, Disciple was chased by 2 nascent soul cultivators. If Master and Shueshue hadn't appeared in time, Disciple would have been captured by them. I'm afraid that Disciple would have ended up begging for death." 2 nascent soul cultivators? Zhuohongyi was shocked. You were only a golden core disciple at that time. How did you offend 2 nascent soul cultivators? It's a long story. Disciple also doesn't know what happened. Xiaohua shook his head. That's why Disciple asked Master Zhen Yuan and the Black Bear Spirit to find those 2 spirit-severing cultivators and capture them to ask about the situation. 2 spirit-severing cultivators. Xiang Zhili's eyes turned rapidly. He finally understood why Xiaohua sent the Black Bear Spirit to the Immortal Ascension sect and the Immortal Music sect. That day, Disciple left the Imperial Thunder sect. Xiaohua faced Zhuohongyi and the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley, and roughly told them what happened in the past several hundred years. When everyone heard that Wu Hai and Shueshue actually rushed to Xiaohua and the 2 nascent soul cultivators to lay down a formation and sacrifice their lives without hesitation, they felt sad but also proud. This was because they knew that this kind of master was worthy of their respect, and this kind of companion was worthy of their true love. Moreover, they didn't doubt that if Shueshue found them, they would definitely risk their lives to save Xiaohua. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 51-56. When Xiaohua talked about the 3 continents, the Yilin continent, and the 10,000 demon realm, the disciples of the 10,000 Thunder Valley were fascinated. They really didn't expect that the Xiaoyu continent, which was like the whole world in their eyes, was just a corner of the Yilin continent, a lost place, and the whole Yilin continent was one of the 4 continents. And above the 4 continents, there was a 10,000 demon realm where the demon clan lived. Looking at Xiang Zhili again, his eyes were even brighter. He gave Wu Qing a look, meaning to discuss with Wu Qing about going to the 10,000 demon realm. Wu Qing rolled his eyes a few times and shook his head slightly. Seeing that Wu Qing ignored him, Xiang Zhili raised his nose, snorted silently, and pricked up his ears to listen. Xiaohua gave a rough account of his experience, which actually took him more than half a day. Everyone in the Myriad Thunder Valley was dumbstruck as they listened. After a long while they came back to their senses. Zhuo **** whispered. Ai poor Shueshue. Wu Qing frowned. Senior brother, how do we break the immortal array? Xiaohua shook his head and said to Wu Qing. The so-called immortal array should be made by immortals. With our strength, it's difficult to break it. At this time, I still haven't found a way to break the array. What can little brother help with? Wuqing asked hurriedly. Xiao Hua smiled and waved his hand. You don't have to think too much. Cultivate well and protect the 10,000 Thunder Valley. It's more important than anything. Oh right, you just said that the 10,000 Thunder Valley was almost cleaned up. What's going on? AI. Xiangyang sighed. Isn't it the order of the sect master? Then Xiangyang talked about the situation of the 10,000 Thunder Valley these years. Cui Hongshan also talked about the situation of the Imperial Thunder sect. Xiaohua listened and sighed. However, this was the internal affairs of the Imperial Thunder sect, and the 10,000 Thunder Valley was fine now, so Xiaohua didn't say much. Xiang Zhili thought about it for a moment, and also reported about his Wuqing's and Cui Yingying's training in the Flame Forest Swamp, their opportunity to find the Lightning Beast's nest, and even their cultivation in the Imperial Thunder sect. This was the first time the disciples of the 10,000 Thunder Valley heard of these things. Zhuo Wuqing and the others were really happy for the three. After everyone finished speaking, Xiaohua looked at Cui Hongshan and asked, When I left the Imperial Thunder sect, I saw Zhenhua. Is he still here? Cui Hongshan did not hesitate as he shook his head and said, Of the first team that participated in the Great Sword Dao battle, other than Bai Sugu who had cultivated to the Oris core stage, the others such as Zhen Minghui, Su Qing, Zhenhua, and Qiu Su had all stagnated at the late stage of foundation establishment. They had not broken through until the end of their lives. As for Baisu Valley, they have only cultivated to the early stage of the Golden Core realm. They seem to have fallen 100 years ago. Alas, cultivation is too difficult. Dui Qiming looked around and said, Let's not talk about Dui Ling and Ming Mao from back then. Even the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley, Zhen Fengjie, Yin Qing, Zhen Yaonyong, Ting Tao, Zhen Tingmu, Zhen Xuanfeng, Jiang Yu Zhen Xian, and Fan Yuming have all perished long ago. Hearing Dui Qiming talk about her disciple, Yin Qinglian also felt sad. She nodded and said, Junior sister is right. 1,000 years is enough to change a lot. We are lucky to have embarked on the path of cultivation, but it is also sad. That's right. Zhuo **** suddenly thought of something. Sun Shu from the Sun Lei Palace often comes here. She seems to have also reached the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. Xiao Hua smiled and replied, When Disciple returned to the Xiaoyu continent, Disciple has already met Martial Uncle Sun Shu and Martial Uncle Zhen Qing. No wonder. Zhuo **** suddenly understood. Then he changed the topic and said, Also, what's the matter with the fairy Hongxia that Tian Zhenyuan mentioned? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hurriedly said, Master's wife will know about this matter in a few days. Disciple won't be tired of talking about it. Oh, that's right. How many disciples are there in the Myriad Thunder Valley now? Actually, the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley were all inside the Immortal's Cave. Xiaohua immediately knew with a sweep of his divine perception that he was just trying to change the topic. Xiang Zhili understood this the best. He hurriedly shouted, Disciples, quickly come and pay your respects. The disciples didn't dare to be negligent. They hurriedly got up, walked to Xiaohua, and respectfully saluted him. Xiaohua smiled and helped them up one by one. At the side, Xiangyang also gave a simple introduction. Now in my Myriad Thunder Valley, other than the younger generation disciples you're familiar with, there are still 19 Foundation Establishment disciples and 20 Aura Refining disciples. They are. After hearing the last part, Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. He looked outside the Immortal's Cave and said indifferently, The strength of my Myriad Thunder Valley is much stronger than before. Why does Fairy Xianhua want to eliminate it? She acted rashly without carefully investigating. It's really inappropriate. No wonder the Imperial Thunder sect was targeted by Falling Star Heaven. Cui Hongshan smiled and said, Sect Master also has his own difficulties. You can't blame him. Fairy Xianhua has difficulties. What about Qian Diheng? Xiaohua said coldly, My Myriad Thunder Valley is so poor. He is in charge of a chamber of commerce and is overflowing with wealth. How can he ignore my Myriad Thunder Valley? Xiang Zhili smiled slightly. Looking at the place where Xiaohua was just looking, A meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This was because he had found that outside the myriad Thunder Valley, Qian Dihing and spiritual master Quangtian were flying close. Xiao Hua didn't hide his words. When Qian Dihing and spiritual master Quangtian heard it, they were stunned in midair, not daring to fly half a step forward. Xiao Hua was catching up with Zhua ***** and the others in the myriad Thunder Valley. He didn't answer Zhua ***** about Fairy Hongxia, but Fairy Hongxia in the Sky Patrol City was not idle. In the Sentry City, in a transparent hall that looked like a crystal, there were two groups of cultivators discussing something. Behind the few Foundation establishment cultivators was Fairy Hongxia, who was frowning deeply. At the right time, several rays of sunlight pierced through the thick clouds like sharp swords, crossing the sky and falling on the roof of the hall. The roof of the hall was transparent, and the falling snowflakes either melted or condensed. Pieces of crystals covered the roof of the hall. Some of the crystals were pentagonal, some were tree-shaped, and stacked together to form a strange crystal world. When the sunlight shone on the crystals, it gave off a strange brilliance. The brilliance passed through the roof of the hall and fell on Fairy Hongxia's body. Fairy Hongxia was still wearing bright red clothes. Her jade-like face was suffused with a beautiful halo in the red. What was special was that when this brilliance surged down, it flashed with resplendent brilliance amidst the red glow, causing the already alluring Fairy Hongxia to become even more alluring. Fairy Hongxia's furrowed brows, drawing out a faint stroke on her beauty. It was truly moving. If there was a bit more, it would be too strong. And if there was a bit less, it would be too light. Fairy Hongxia's gaze did not pay attention to the Kai family disciples in front of her. Instead, she looked at the thick dark clouds and drifting snowflakes outside the hall. She did not care about the sunlight falling on her. That kind of silence was like the settling of a dream in the night, heavy and flying. Inadvertently, Fairy Hongxia seemed to be disturbed by the quarrel between the Kai family disciples and the Yi family disciples. Her jade-like eyelids trembled slightly, and she looked at the Yi family disciples with a gaze that could melt ice. However, before she could see what the Yi family disciples were arguing about, she was suddenly shocked.